Okay. We're recording and streaming at the same time. Boom. Good to
You talk about how you're DACA, kind of the nature of immigration, and it was in this like total free for all where like everybody else around was talking about how like immigrants need to go home and like how they smell and stuff, and so then you guys started to talk about your.
Hold on.
Story, but then kind of it got cut off. So like, why don't you just educate me, our audience, like tell us about you, give us a little bit of like a, TLDR on your life story.
Yeah, thanks, man. I actually also don't know anything about you guys either, so I'd love to have that shared. You just give me a few seconds, and I'm like, you guys seem cool. I like to get to know you too, but
we're cool. Yeah, let's do it. We'll do that on the flip. You go first.
Cool. So that's right. DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which happened during the Obama administration.
We'll do that on the flip. So obviously this guy didn't do any research on his when he went to go to the Jubilee thing.
Essentially, it was
just like YouTube show. I'm in.
Temporary legal status. Now, the wording might not be exact, so people might say, "Well, it's not technically legal. It's just they're just holding you." But I have a social. I can work. I have a license. I can vote, obviously, and I can't leave the country. I can leave the country, but it has to be under certain circumstances, like educational, work, or family emergency.
He thinks they're not aware of what DACA is. That's awesome.
And where'd you give us like you were born where, like what's your vibe? What do your parents do? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah. A little story. So, born and raised in Sinaloa, Mexico, 1992, and I moved here when I was 10. Moved here to Phoenix. My parents brought me over illegally across the border as a 10-year-old boy. And man, when I got here, instant shock. I saw the first black person in my life and first white person too, I guess. But I was just a kid, just observing. And when I got to school was when it really hit me, because I didn't speak the language, and I guess maybe I didn't look or smell like the citizens of the U.S., but I was bullied, and I was bullied badly, actually. Got to the point where every lunchtime I had to spend it like a loser in the teacher's classroom, because it was the only place where I felt safe during lunchtime, because otherwise I'd be getting punched in the bathrooms and getting beat up. And
what neighborhood? Where is this? Like what part? Where?
So I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I live in downtown Phoenix now, but this was actually a Frank Elementary School over in Guadalupe, which is just like East Phoenix, Southeast Phoenix, Tempe, Arizona. That was the first school I went to. And then we moved a lot. My parents moved a lot because they didn't own a home.
Damn, I've been to Tempe. Like, it's nice. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think that kids getting beat up in the
home. They just rented
bathroom
everywhere. And everywhere we moved about 3 different times. We moved to the West Phoenix, South Phoenix, Central Phoenix. It didn't matter where we were. I was bullied everywhere. It was hard to be an immigrant, and even more to be an undocumented immigrant, because kids knew. They're mean. I'm going through this. My dad left my mom. My dad left my mom when I was 2 years old. And so I grew up without a dad. So I didn't have a father figure to go to during these like really difficult times in my life. And I didn't have any friends because nobody wanted to be associated with the wetback kid. And it wasn't until...
Is this real? Like, I was brown in French class. They bullied me a little bit, but not like that. Is that how it is in the States? Damn.
Until I got to high school, where I had a cousin named Nestor who kind of taught me a little bit of swag, kind of how to dress better. We got into hooping, basketball, and also skateboarding. And I started to get a little swag, started to be a little cool. I learned the language. It took me about 2-3 years. So I landed here when I was in 5th grade. I started 5th grade here in the US. And by about 8th grade, like I was pretty fluent. So you couldn't tell that much.
Oh, probably because he wasn't fluent. That's probably the difference. Because I spoke English because I was born here. So that's probably the difference.
Too, that I was like a wetback kid.
Yeah.
And so I kind of fit in a little bit better. And I felt good about that, right? Because I didn't really stand
I don't know
out.
if that's technically the right slur for you, I would say, though, also, because you came across land.
I know.
You came
I
across land. Sinaloa to Arizona. Like, that'd be more of an appropriate for like.
Oh, is that where the slur
There
comes
are no
from?
appropriate slurs, but if you're going to do one, it would be from like Cuba to Florida. You'd be across water.
You
That's the
actually go
wet.
across water.
But you were going from Sinaloa to Phoenix, so that's all land. But anyway.
That's actually a really good point you make. Because you're right. I'm not technically a wetback. I'm like I don't know, sunburn back.
Yeah,
but I didn't
something like
walk. But I didn't walk like my parents. My mom did at the time, and my mom has some sort of legal visa status now. But she like did the hardcore. You walk the freaking cerros, like the mountains, right, for a couple of days, like that kind of craziness. Mine was more smooth.
For money, your mom did like for economic reasons, or because she was like security, violence.
Not violence, more security and money. Just a kind of classic American dream. Like we're living in a little rancho, a little small town in Sinaloa, and just not much happening, just working the fields. I helped my mom work the fields myself when I was a little kid.
Wow.
And just wasn't really much going, right? So she figured if she moved to the big city, start making dollars. And she came back and forth a few times until she decided that it was time to bring us over. And so that was in 2003. I'm 32 years old, 32 now. So this was, 21 years ago that I haven't been back. It's been 21 years. Anyway, so I'm in high school now, and I wasn't being bullied. In fact, I was kind of the cool kid in high school. So that was great.
Congrats.
I thought it was
so was Cameron.
I wasn't the cool kid, though. I was a cool kid. Edwin's telling us he was the cool kid.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if I should. Maybe my friends at Southland High School would be able to tell you that. But I guess I was one of the cool kids. I was fly. I got a little swag, which I know we don't even use that term probably anymore. But so anyway, so I thought, great, like this is what I needed. This is where where I need to be. Like I'm talking to girls. I still somehow felt like empty. It felt like just wasn't enough. And not only that, but I was also now faced with the reality, like, oh shoot, my friends are getting jobs. They're juniors, seniors. Now they're getting jobs. I can't get a job, not legally at least. So I did side hustles like landscaping. I did that for a few years. And now they're getting a driver's permit. I can't get a driver's license. So now I'm feeling like all that middle school, that shame again of like, God, I'm an alien. Like I don't belong here. I'm not really like these people in a sense. And so it wasn't until obviously later on, which we're going to do, where the actual Obama administration, where they did pass the whole DACA thing, and I was able to then get a Social Security and work legally. That was when I was about 21. But anyway, during this time, I was into partying and drinking, and it was where my life actually turned around. And we're going to get more into as to why I went on Jubilee. I met my best friend Sam, who's actually the guy responsible for why I was on Jubilee. He invited me onto Jubilee, and he's kind of like the one. Everybody just kind of skipped over him. He also wasn't a racist Nazi like some people, but he's the other Latino who was in there at minute 15. Samuel is his name.
There was a racist Nazi who said that he didn't go up to debate Mehdi because Mehdi smelled bad. And then Mehdi said to Tim on Tim's show, yeah, I can't get into it, but that is not why he's not in the video.
No, he did go up. I don't know if I can. I know that Mehdi said like I can't talk about it. I mean, I don't know what I can against it, but he definitely went up there and he definitely said some stuff that were like, you thought the pink shirt guy was crazy? You didn't hear nothing. Like this dude, he was saying some stuff too, man. And
he's one of the quintessential racist guys on Twitter, and you can tell when someone is really going to be that way when they use AI to make themselves look more.
If you guys haven't seen that Jubilee debate or whatever it was, go watch it. But because like, there's some pretty racist stuff that's on there, and if what they're saying now is there's one guy in the back, and he got cut. Like, what did he even say? Like, the one guy called himself a Nazi or said, I'm a fascist. The other guy told him, you should leave. Like, tried to, like, tell Mehdi he wasn't good. Crazy. Now they're saying, wow.
Or like a Chad in their profile picture.
Yeah.
So I'd really only seen his tweets from his profile picture where I was like, okay, you're a fucking white supremacist freak, but credit to you, your looks maxing pretty effectively. And then I saw a picture of him in the video and I was like, oh, this guy is like not... This guy is not very tough. He's closer to me than he is to his profile picture.
It's important to have authenticity in your profile picture. Okay, well, I'm sure our audience and I'm fascinated by your journey from getting DACA under Obama to being one of the 20 far-right conservatives debating Mehdi Hassan. But like, in order to live up to our promise to you, we'll just we'll give a 30-second of what you just got yourself into. So the Bulwark was a never Trumper site. Basically, it was a bunch of us were used to be Republicans, not Cam. We'll get to him in a second. Used to be Republicans, left the party over Trump, started a media outlet, and I'm like the podcast host for that outlet.
You're like independent now, or you're?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, functionally, I guess I'm a Democrat because I end up only voting for Democrats, but I'd love to be independent. I'd love for the Republicans to put up somebody I'd like at some point. So, so I host a podcast, and the Never Trumper audience is kind of, let's just be honest, a little old and white. And so we're like, we got to reach other people with our messaging. So we're doing a bunch of other shows and kind of trying to expand demos. And me and Cam hooked up, and we're trying to do this show. We talk to younger folks, and Cam is not a former Republican, but like he has other good qualities.
In high school, I got really close to being red pilled. I was very Republican friendly for a while. I was watching Ben Shapiro just a little too affectionately. So while I never effectively got to a point where I would have wanted to send your ass back to Mexico, I did sort of say, there are some sexy things about conservatism, but then, being friends with a diverse group of people sort of kept me where I started with my lib family. But I'm so curious how we got from.
So then, you should probably tell them that, the most important thing about you.
Oh,
your
yeah, I'm a Scorpio.
The Scorpio. I was thinking about your dating past, or being a fan of the Milwaukee Brewers, or maybe one of the things.
Milwaukee Brewers is big. Also, notoriously survivor of a school shooting in Parkland, Florida. People in the comments sometimes give me shit for talking about Parkland. They're like, oh my God, Cameron won't stop talking about Parkland. It's like, yeah, I was in a fucking school shooting where 17 people got murdered, and I saw fucking videos of it while I was hiding from it. Like, yeah, that might come up.
Also, Cameron is 24. His most important life experience is starting, one of the biggest mass protest movements in the country. So, like, what the hell else is he going to talk about?
Yeah, dude. Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's our vibe. Anyway, back to you.
A school shooting. And by the way, the almost red pilling happened after the school shooting. So after,
really? I didn't know that.
After 17. Well, what happened was,
who was the red pilled survivor that was like your counter, your
Kyle Kashuv.
Kyle Kashnik. He was like Bizarro Cameron.
Kyle Kashuv.
Yeah, Kashuv.
Yeah. So basically, I got a lot of promises from Democrats. A lot of Democrats told us that we were going to be the kids to do something about these mass shootings. A lot of Democrats told us that we were going to get something done. Change was going to happen. And then the further we got from the shooting, the more I started to realize that this is not a country where substantive gun reform is that simple or that easy or even that possible. So I felt very left behind by the Democratic Party. I felt like they had made a bunch of false promises. And at the time, I was kind of abhorred by most of what you were getting from the conservatives, especially those who claimed to be conservative, but then were defending Donald Trump, who went against what I considered to be the conservative principles. As somebody who, the first Republican I saw with any idea of what politics was Mitt Romney, right? And Donald Trump comes in, and I'm like, wait, this is not what I thought Republicans were like. This is so much worse than I had ever imagined. So I was abhorred by Republican ideals, but I appreciated the fact that the stuff that I thought was rotten, at least the Republicans would fucking say that that's what they're doing. There was something that I found alluring about the honesty. That's like, yeah, if we're going to do this fucking scum shit, at least we'll tell you and we'll kind of tout it and be proud of it. So suddenly it started to become a situation where I looked at the Republicans as the devil I know, and the Democrats as this shady, mysterious force that I couldn't trust. So with the conservatives, even if I didn't like what they were saying, I felt as though they were honest. Now, of course, they're all covering up a giant pedophile ring. So I don't know how honest we can call the Republicans. Now they're all, claiming that Donald Trump is saving the American economy. So trusting them was misguided from me. But again, I was fortunate enough to have friends. And having friends is something that is...
Because you were cool. We mentioned that before.
No, but really, on a personal human level, having human connections to other people is very often the elixir to the allure of conservatism, because conservatism thrives in isolation. The more separated from other people you feel, the more you're in on just taking care of you and not going out of your way to take care of other people. So I ended up not getting red pilled, but I got close.
Close call. We basically had a very big teaser about Edwin, and we're 15 minutes in now. And I still want to know how Edwin got from DACA to Jubilee.
So Mr. Edwin, we'll ask you right now, how did we go from DACA kid getting bullied for being an immigrant to someone who identifies as far right conservative?
Yeah, very good question. So first off, I am a Christian. And I am conservative in the sense that I want to conserve biblical values, biblical principles. And to some people, that seems far right. As easy as I can explain it.
So you felt...
Is there a part in the Bible where they tell you how to beat your slave?
Okay, we're not doing Bible talk yet, Cameron. I need a little more info. I need a little more info before you start arguing with them.
Yeah, and then I'd love to get into the Bible because I love it.
All right, so you're the Christian stuff. We'll get to Bible talk. So you get when you got DACA, and I guess you don't vote, right? So it doesn't matter.
Exactly. I can't even vote. Yeah.
So you self-identified far right conservative as being about Christian values and stuff. And so I wonder, then your friend brought you in there. Well, I guess I have two thoughts. I wonder, so what do you think about Donald Trump, who doesn't really believe biblical values? And then two, what did you think about your fellow compatriots there in the Jubilee circle?
Obviously, I don't know Donald Trump personally, and honestly, I don't even follow him that closely, obviously, but I do know this. I experienced two different rallies, the Biden administration rally and a Trump rally. I went to the actual Trump rally. I just listened to the Biden rally because I don't think it was in Arizona. Goodyear, Arizona. This was the first one that Trump had. But what I experienced there, and again, I'm not defending the guy. Like, I don't even really know that much about the guy because I can't even freaking vote. So it's like, you know what I'm saying?
So you went to a Trump rally. You're digging the vibes. You like the hats.
I mean, I like red hats. I don't really wear hats. I don't care what they say on them. Red hats. But anyway, that's the point. What I liked versus I'll tell you what I didn't like about the other one was that we spent the first 10 minutes, a pastor came up, and we spent the first 10 minutes praying over our nation. Whether Donald Trump meant it or not, right? That's another story. But I know that praying over our nation was a lot more helpful to me and to the individuals that I know versus playing Despacito when you're coming onto the Biden Trump route, the Biden administration. They played
Wow.
Despacito, thinking like, oh yeah, we're gonna get all these dumb Mexicans, or because we're gonna play Despacito. It's not even Mexican, it's Puerto Rican, Luis
I
Fonsi.
mean, it's a catchy number.
It is a really catchy song. It's actually
Despacito.
yep, it is actually a good song. But so that was like my take, and as I started to kind of to hear more, and obviously everyone leans one way or another when you listen to podcasters, whether. But Tim, you said this earlier, which is really interesting. You said,
Wow.
you know, unfortunately, there hasn't been an independent person that has filled that seat or platform that I could vote for, right? And so for me, I can't even vote, but if I did vote, I feel like I would have to be forced to choose between two parties, which is the two that are actually going to win. Let's be honest, right?
So virtue signal praying really works. Like, really works. So, like, all that gay shit that we see Trump doing where they're like, you know, oh, and they put the hand on the Trump and they're like, oh, and they're the most evil people in the world, but they got their head down and they're praying. You know, that shit works on guys like this. Holy fuck.
The Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And for me, being that I stand by my biblical principles, I'm not saying Donald Trump does, but I'm saying that I do. And when I see millions of babies being slaughtered every year, and again, I don't even think that Donald Trump's even doing necessarily, or the Republican Party, but it's, I think, Tim, you might have mentioned this even in the episode of, I think it was Espina, the other Uruguayan Mexican. Yeah, where he said, I think he said something about like, okay, the godless Democrats versus the pretending to be Christian Republicans.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Right? And like I said, I consider myself conservative, if that's what you want to call it. Some people might actually call it Christian nationalist, if that's what you wish to call it, in the sense that I genuinely believe that if we strive our best to follow these biblical principles to the best of our ability in this nation, we will actually flourish.
The nation was pretty famously founded.
That's so fucked, okay? So, like, there's a lot of this now where they're just like, he's about to say a nation based, you know, founded on secular values, okay, with separation between church and state. Okay, that's what makes the United States, Canada, countries like that special. That's what makes them special. And, like, let's go to ethno-states, like Iran, like, what's it called? Israel, like, it's not pleasant. And if you thought that worked, why don't you find an ethno-Christian? Like, why did you run from Mexico to a secular country? It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me.
Founded on the OG original idea of religious freedom. Mm-hmm. So when I hear Christian nationalist, I'm like, well, that kind of goes against the whole nation part, because the nation was founded by people who wanted religious freedom for everybody.
Yeah. And what do you mean by that, religious freedom?
Well, so there were these Brits, which I know already, I'm not for it either, and they were getting persecuted for their religion, and then they did colonialism because they wanted to be free to practice their religion. Do I remember what religion it is? No. Do I care? No. But I feel like that was one of the original founding beliefs. I think that might have been the founding belief. Tim, am I wrong?
Yeah, the country was founded on like not having an official religion, like there were in most of the other countries in the past. Like the point of the United States was that people would have freedom of religion, also freedom from religion, freedom from coerced religion, and so the Christian nationalism thing is kind of at odds with the American patriotism, right?
Maybe because the Declaration of Independence, right? It begins with we make what is it, truths
to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Yep.
All men are created equal, and that they're endowed by their creator certain unalienable rights and inalienable rights. It's hard for me to say that word. And so what I believe when they mean the creator, I mean that they're talking about the one true God, which I believe is the God of the Bible, because I don't believe that they had any other God in mind in 1776. If they're going to establish some type of declaration under
retarded. I've heard enough. Now
the whole direction of trade policy over the last 80 years has been to reduce barriers.
What an idiot. What an idiot. Like, what an actual idiot that guy was. Like, so all you have to do is just be like, oh, hallelujah, Donald Trump. Who cares that it's fucking rapists? Who cares that it's like, who cares who it is? Who cares what they're saying? Who cares what they've done? Have a prayer. You prayed with, very likely you prayed with a pedo. Man, these people are stupid. And he's still defending it. Like, he's going online. Wow. I can't. Like, it's amazing. Okay, let's see what this guy has to say. Oh, Trump tariffs will backfire. Okay.
And to encourage world trade. And it's grown enormously, 45-fold in volume terms since the Second World War. And it's been a great boon. And this is going in the opposite direction. It will make the economy less efficient, as a Trump advisor boasted that it would. And a less efficient economy is going to be one where growth is slower and prices are a bit higher. And that's not good for US citizens. It's not good for citizens in the rest of the world either.
Donald Trump has fired the head of America's Bureau of Labor Statistics hours after it reported worse than expected job numbers. The US president claimed on social media the commissioner had rigged figures to make the Republicans and me look bad. Well, US stock markets fell after the unprecedented move by the White House. The markets have already been jittery after the president announced new tariffs on many countries around the world. Let's speak to Philip Coggan, who's economist and author of The Economic Consequences of Mr. Trump, what the trade war means for the world. Morning to you, Philip.
Morning.
So first of all, tell us about this statistician that Donald Trump sacked. What exactly had she done that so upset Trump? And is there any justification in it?
Well, she hasn't really done anything. She runs the agency. The statistics are compiled by her staff. There's about 2,000 staff there. And they estimate the change in workforce in the US economy by asking companies around the country whether or not they've hired new workers or fired workers. And what often happens is that many of those companies don't reply instantly. So you get an initial guess, and then as further information comes in, as the other companies reply, you revise the figures. This is a process that's been going on for decades. And this can lead to some quite big revisions at turning points in the economy. There's also an issue of statistical, sort of seasonal adjustment. Sometimes around Christmas, retailers hire more employees, and then in January they let them go again. This kind of thing happens all year. So this is all part of the normal revision, and she didn't do it. The agency did, but she's got fired for it.
As we said, the job numbers were worse than expected. What is the state of the US economy right now when we bear in mind particularly tariffs?
So if you look at the first half of the 2025, the economy grew by an annualized rate of about 1.2, 1.3%. In 2024, under President Biden, it grew by 2.8%. So there's been a marked slowdown, and it's not really surprising because of all the uncertainty caused by the tariffs. And nor is it surprising that employers would hesitate about hiring people until they figured out what rate the tariffs finally settled at. And we have also to throw in here that...
Shit. My bad.
Cryptocurrency has seen its popularity explode over the last few years, embraced by not just the tech world and celebrities, but also retirees looking to boost their nest eggs.
Kind of boring, anyways.
For more analysis now, we're joined by Robert Glasgow. He's a partner at McCarthy Tetro with an expertise on international trade. So good to have you on the show, Robert. Thank you for making time.
Great to be here, Natasha.
So, Robert, from a legal standpoint, these deadlines get put out July 21st, then August 1st, and then they go by and nothing really happens. So when you're speaking to clients about the situation we're in with the tariff and trade war with the United States, what are you telling them? What is the reality here?
So a big part of this is the natural chaos that seems to swirl around every Trump administration. And a lot of it's kind of just trying to do what forecasting you have with what tools we have available. And thus far, we've seen that the U.S. has been fairly stable in at least one element of the trade deals, which is this 0% rate for CUSMA-compliant goods. And this is one of the reasons why the U.S. ambassador to Canada said that he didn't believe that they were in breach of CUSMA because they allowed for this exemption for the CUSMA goods. So I think that that's kind of forming something of a cornerstone of where things are. And at least that's the one area of certainty. Now, that doesn't mean everything's good. You have the tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and now copper.
First of all, the U.S. ambassador to Canada is a dick. That guy can go fuck himself.
Which are not these kind of fentanyl or IEEPA tariffs that your previous guest was discussing. But you do have at least that level of certainty for those goods going forward for as far as we can foresee. Because again, when you're dealing with Donald Trump, you can't foresee everything.
But Robert, help me understand this, because part of at least my confusion in the storyline is that yes, CUSMA-compliant goods will not be subject to these 35% tariffs. However, in the original negotiation of CUSMA, steel and aluminum and auto sector would have been covered under CUSMA. So why are they getting tariffed at very high rates?
So there's two different processes and statutes that the U.S. uses. There's IEEPA, which covers temporary emergencies, and it's the president's emergency powers, which is why it's queued off of fentanyl, because he's declared fentanyl to be a national emergency in the U.S., and that's what's giving him the power, allegedly, to use these tariffs. It's worth noting those are currently under challenge. They were actually...
Allegedly.
Found to be unlawful by the Court of International Trade in the United States. And they recently had their hearing at the Federal Circuit Court, where most analysts, including myself, think that they got taken to the woodshed, the government, and that there's a lot of expectation that the Federal Circuit Court will also find them to be unlawful. And that's ultimately...
So if you guys don't know about this, okay, the Trump admin actually had to sign a piece of paper that said that they will give back every penny of tariff they collect if they don't win their appeal. So this happened a couple months back when they first put the tariffs on, and then they got beat in court. I think Newsom had something to do with it too. Anyways, who cares? But this is what he's talking about, which is why these tariffs might just be bullshit in the first place, because they're not supposed to be his power. There's no emergency with fentanyl, let's be real. Not from Canada, anyways. Yeah.
Only going to be ending up in the Supreme Court. Steel, aluminum, and autos are done under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act in 1972. That is for national security reasons that they've established these tariffs. one element of that is that there has to be a lot more congressional oversight, and there's a lot more kind of investigation that happens, and there's a lot less ability of the president to just kind of snap his fingers and change the tariff rate like he can under IEPA. And so that's why he can't use them. But that's why they're a separate regime. It's a completely separate statute and tariff power that the president is using.
And as you've laid out, Robert, the president and his administration are on shaky legal ground, and if this does go all the way to the Supreme Court, and he is found to be in breach of the law of the Kuzma Agreement, then what is the punitive action? Does the president or this administration face any real consequences?
So it's worth noting the challenge here is actually that the law breaches Kuzma. It's that the president's authority under IEPA does not extend to making tariffs.
Okay.
He's allowed to take certain other steps, such as doing a trade embargo, but he can't tariff goods. And if it ultimately is found to be unlawful, then the fentanyl tariffs would go away entirely, as would the kind of the so-called Liberation Day tariffs that were blanket tariffs on every other country. Those would also go away. Now, the real interesting question is what would happen to all the money the government's collected? Not just from a legal perspective, because legally they'd be obligated to return it. The bigger question is practically, how would they? Because you saw the U.S. bragging about hundreds of billions of dollars of tariff revenue that they've been bringing in. Are they just going to distribute that? That's going to leave a giant hole in the budget that they've been celebrating with a budget surplus in June. And that's just going to potentially be fiscal chaos.
So in the meantime, what options, legally speaking, does Canada have as they want to move forward with collegial, respectful negotiations, not antagonize the president, but also challenge him?
So I think the steps Canada is taking, as reflected by the comments by Minister LeBlanc at the top of the hour, is to continue negotiating. I think the current system of the 35% and 0% is one that both sides, while not liking, can find at least somewhat palatable. Because Donald Trump can hold it up and say, I would put higher tariffs on Canada because they're not cooperating and they're being very nasty people. And Mark Carney in Canada can hold up and say, look, for most of the goods that are kind of made in Canada from a Kuzma perspective and can provide proof that they've been made in Canada under Kuzma guidelines, that's going in duty-free. The biggest issue is going to be autos, steel, and aluminum. And that's where we're going to see the biggest fights. And Canada has enacted retaliatory tariffs on those areas. But in a number of these, especially in the aluminum field, the U.S. is just going to have to keep importing it, and the U.S. importers are going to have to keep eating the tariff duty rate because there's no real alternative for Canadian aluminum in the U.S. market.
Boom. Yeah, they're stupid. I say let them punch themselves in their face. Let them have it. You know what I mean? And it's aggressive tax, and poor Americans are going to pay for it, and probably, I just can't see how this plan really works. You know, first of all, you're just what made America, Canada, all those places good is a strong middle class. Because a strong middle class spends money as fast as they earn it. If you paycheck to paycheck, you're always getting the new latest greatest, right? And so that keeps the economy going. But if you're taxing them the most on everything, steel, aluminum, stuff you can't taxing them on coffee because it comes from it doesn't make sense. And I'm literally drinking coffee right now. I'm gonna go get another one. But why punish people? It makes no sense. Whatever. Why would you hire a president that has been criminally convicted? Makes no sense.
Robert Glasgow, really great to get your expertise today. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure.
Boom, boom, boom.
For many Albertans, a long weekend means exploring the great outdoors. Adventurers can take advantage of a new free technology that helps you stay connected even in cell-service dead zones. Experts in safety and tech are calling the satellite service a game changer. CTV's Jeremy Thompson reports.
When you're out here, cell service is expected to be spotty. That's the case in many less remote parts of Canada too, anywhere cell towers like this aren't close by. In mid-July, Rogers launched a new service to keep you connected almost anywhere.
Initially, it's somewhat limited. It's only texting.
The service is a partnership with SpaceX and Link Global, which develops what it calls cell towers in space, allowing newer cell phones to use low-orbiting satellites to send messages. iPhone users may know.
Cryptocurrency, as seen as with SpaceX. Ugh. Fuck it. That dude's ruined his brand so bad. So bad. It's I don't know. I think it's irreparable. It's not going to get fixed.
Popularity exploded over the last few years, embraced by not just the tech world and celebrities, but also retirees looking to boost their nest eggs. And with crypto's rise and plenty of people making millions, some flaunting their wealth very publicly, would-be thieves have taken notice too, targeting crypto holders and engaging in what are known as wrench attacks. That's when a would-be thief threatens or violently attacks someone in order to gain access to their cryptocurrency holdings. Let's get more now from CNN Shimon Brokipes.
Caitlin Sarus's attackers came under the cover of darkness, guns drawn with one demand.
They point the gun at me from the hallway, and they tell me to stand up, and so I'm freaking out, and I'm standing up, and there's a chair over here, and so they kind of just all come towards me, because there's three of them, and they corner me into the chair, and that's when they start pistol whipping me, asking where the crypto is, holding me at gunpoint.
He told me I grow a god and look like a surf.
Saragusa is a famous streamer and OnlyFans model known to her millions of followers as Amaranth. And while she's no crypto kingpin, she believes that a tweet 9 months earlier alluding to her investments in crypto is what prompted the attack.
So you're sitting and the three of them are around you like this, sort of masks on, guns, and then one guy.
Yeah, he was on the side of me holding the gun to my head, and the other one was here hitting me.
What Saragusa's assailants didn't realize, the entire attack was being captured by surveillance cameras, and Caitlin wasn't alone. She called her husband Nick when when the attack began, and he was listening to the entire frightening episode from another part of their home.
I got to hear kind of all the dialogue that was happening, and then even them hitting her. I'm running over here. I go to the little safe thing I have here, and I type in my code, and it pops open. I grab the handgun, and then I slip this on, grab this, and I'm rushing downstairs.
Fearing for her life, Sarus decided to lead her attackers towards her husband.
So at this point, you're out. What do you tell them?
Like, oh, I remember where it is. I'll take it to you too. Like, it's so comical, honestly.
So how is this is blood.
Yes, that's my hand bleeding after it was touching. It was my head dripped onto my hand.
Surveillance footage captured Sarus sprinting across her driveway, leading them to what she hopes is an ambush.
As soon as I turn the corner of the stairs, he's there, waiting at the top, and he tells me to get down. And I'm about like right here when I do. I just hung beside the wall.
I fired 3 shots. I hit the guy once, I believe, in the lower abdomen area.
Attacks on prominent crypto holders have been growing. Police say in May, a man in New York was kidnapped, held hostage, and tortured for 3 weeks by men trying to gain access to his Bitcoin account. He escaped with his life, beaten, bloody, and barefoot. That same month, in France, gunmen ambushed the daughter and grandson of a French cryptocurrency boss, attempting to abduct them off the streets of Paris in broad daylight. And it's not just the crypto elite being targeted. In 2023, an elderly couple in North Carolina was held hostage by 2 men posing as construction workers. They zip-tied the couple before threatening to cut off the man's toes, genitalia, and rape his wife before making off with more than $150,000 in cryptocurrency. Both men were convicted, and Justice Department officials say the ringleader is now serving 47 years in prison.
Well, that's an unexpected downside to crypto.
And for his involvement in a series of similar attacks. The other is awaiting sentencing. Ari Redboard is the global head of policy for TRM Labs. They're a blockchain intelligence firm that tracks wrench attacks. They issued a report this year analyzing wrench attacks and identified 3 key factors contributing to their rise: the perceived anonymity and irreversibility of cryptocurrency transactions, the public visibility of wealth, and the ease with which personal information can be gathered online.
We've seen a spate of these recently. I think in part because you're seeing copycat type activity. One gang says, "Hey, we can do this, and then we can steal these funds and move them at the speed of the internet," and another guy does the same.
So these are the bullet holes actually, and there's their blood still from where they were bleeding from.
This is the blood from one of them being.
Yeah.
So these are still the bullet holes.
Yes. And some fragments.
Caitlin Sarus and Nick Lee are now taking more precautions. They've hired private security and installed a 12-foot high steel fence around their property. As for her attackers, the man who was shot survived, and all have been arrested and charged in connection with the crime.
Damn.
The crypto thing now is there's a lot of concern over security for people who own crypto.
Yeah, I would say if you have crypto and you're public about it, definitely make sure you live somewhere where you can have a gun.
What a story, and clearly not a one-off here. Woo! It's a trend. So, Shimon, what is law enforcement doing to try to stop these attacks?
John, you're absolutely right. It is a trend, and it's happening.
Protests began in the morning with demonstrators burning the American flag in front of the U.S. Embassy in the capital, Brasilia, and the U.S. consulate in São Paulo, voicing anger over what they call political blackmail, President Donald Trump's use of trade pressure to defend former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, his longtime ally. Bolsonaro is standing trial at the Supreme Court for allegedly plotting a coup to stay in power after losing the 2022 election.
Yeah, this is so stupid. The Brazilians are so fucking right about this. I loved when the current president of Brazil was like, if somebody tried to coup in Brazil, they go to jail. That's the law. In other words, what the fuck's up with you guys? Dumbasses, you elected.
Just days after Lula da Silva took office in 2023, Bolsonaro supporters stormed Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace, calling on the military to oust him. Trump says Bolsonaro is innocent, a victim of a judicial witch hunt. He announced a 50% tariff on all Brazilian exports, ordering Bolsonaro's trial to stop immediately. In a last-minute shift, 700 products were spared, among them orange juice. But orange producers remain uneasy.
The tariffs have no commercial motive. They're political and personal. We can only hope common sense will prevail.
Polls show 60% of Brazilians say Trump is wrong, with protests spreading to other cities until nightfall.
Here in Rio de Janeiro, protesters in front of the U.S. consulate had the same message. They said no foreign power should interfere with Brazil's justice system.
Lula's popularity, once dwindling, is now on the rise.
Brazil is under attack. We have to rally in favor of our sovereignty. We're democracy.
This is why, like, you know, when I see world leaders like Starmer, Carney, Macron, like, they're pandering to Trump. They're trying to, like, you know, like Carney here, he backed off on the digital sales tax. You know, they always got to act like, oh, you're so cool, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, the U.S., this and that. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, we were all under the U.S. empire. Empire's in decline. It's kind of like, you know, move in silence and set yourself up before you know, to a place where you can defend yourself, because you've been relying on what you didn't know were fascists, right? So I kind of get that thing, but at the same time, it's like, if you stand up to him, your people are going to support you. Like, you know, it's almost the best move. Look at Zelensky. Look at this guy. Like, huge upticks in their popularity.
With 3 independent powers. The U.S. should respect that, as Brazilians do.
Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, who's spearheading Bolsonaro's trial, says he'll ignore Trump's economic pressure, including Magnitsky Act sanctions imposed on him, and that the trial will continue.
The judiciary will not accept any attempt to subject the Supreme Court to the scrutiny of another state through hostile acts.
Exporters whose products weren't spared are pushing for more exemptions before the full tariff takes effect next week. But across Brazil, the message is clear. Justice will not be traded. Monica Yananke of Al Jazeera, Rio de Janeiro.
Don't miss out.
Well, that's really good. I'm actually really glad to hear that the Brazilians basically, say it's our country, we'll fucking decide. That's the way it should be.
The president announced that she had a good conversation with Donald Trump and important agreements were reached for Mexico.
A call of about 40 minutes or so, and as President Trump, and we have already published, it is 90 days. We will remain as we are, and there are 90 days to continue talking, dialoguing, building a longer-term agreement. This agreement is important. The tariffs will not increase anymore. If you look at the agreements with other countries, in reality, we will remain the same as we were. Second, TEMEC is safeguarded. This is very important because remember that 25% of the tariffs or duties, as it should be said in Spanish, of the tariffs are for everything that is not within TEMEC. For everything that is outside TEMEC, it is 25%. And well, the tariffs for automobiles are maintained, although as you know, there is a discount for what has to do with parts manufactured in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Also,
the way our president handles her conversation, her manner, and the firmness with which she defends Mexico's interests, her ability to convince President Trump is very important and difficult to have foreseen. So, that's the first thing that needs to be said. The second thing I would say is that what has been achieved has had an enormous impact because it keeps Mexico in a much better position than the rest of the countries in the world where different tariffs have been announced. In other words, with 84.4% of our trade covered by the free trade agreement that we have with the United States, no tariffs or duties have to be paid, no other country has. Shout out to Canada. Only Mexico achieved this first, and then it was extended to Canada. The fact that there has been no increase in the 25% that we have been paying for what is not included in the agreement also means another advantage because they will not have to pay more, as was announced starting tomorrow. All of this was achieved without any other concessions from Mexico. So, I think that yes, it is a very big achievement that our president made this call and that this will greatly favor the economy. We now have 90 days, which brings us very close to the end of the year. Who else has 90 days? Well, I think only China. I don't know if President Trump is going to give it to any other country. So, it underscores a very special deal for Mexico. I would also say that the strategy that our president has outlined for us to keep...
I hate the way they very special deal for Mexico because Trump decided to spare you. Like, shut the fuck up. You sound like Trump's bitch. You're bragging like... I honestly, I prefer where we are in Canada. 35%. You know what I mean? We got a little slap on the wrist because we stood up and we're like, yeah, we're not going to move. As far as I'm concerned, put the digital service tax back on. Put the digital service tax back on. You know what I mean? Do it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess we elected these people for a fucking reason. So they're going to do it, but I'm kind of like with Doug Ford and stuff, like hit him back, put export, I don't know what that's called when you do export percentages on power or cut their power. Do whatever the fuck, man. Do whatever the fuck. Either way, the America that we once knew that everybody wanted to be a part of, that migrants wanted to flow to, that was the head of the American empire. First of all, American empire is in decline. Second of all, they're a bunch of fucking assholes. That much is clear now. So, I don't know. What are you holding on to, man? That guy, it's like having a friend that, you know what I mean? Now's, I don't know, all of a sudden hooked on heroin or meth or whatever. You keep trying to take them to the clinic, and then they're just fucking assholes, and they steal from you, and they fucking... say stupid shit to piss you off, and you gotta be the bigger person all the time. You gotta be like, yo, bro, you don't mean that. You know what I mean? And then after a while, it's just like, maybe you do, bro. Maybe that's what you want to do with your life. And I don't know, it's like the airplane. You put your mask on yourself before you put the mask on them. So I don't get with a wild.
Cool head and firmly defend our interests has had another very good result today. It is a very good result for the.
The U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff visited a food distribution site in Gaza on Friday as UN agencies warn the territory is on the brink of a full-scale famine. The dire humanitarian situation in Gaza prompted several Western countries to announce this week that they would recognize a Palestinian state. Now, efforts to breathe new life into a two-state solution were also backed by the Arab League's members this week. They unanimously endorsed a declaration calling for Hamas to lay down its weapons, to release all hostages, and to end its rule in Gaza. The call for Hamas to disarm came at a United Nations conference on a two-state solution to end the decades-long conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. The meeting aimed to build political momentum towards formal recognition of Palestinian statehood. Israel and the United States refused to attend, saying discussing a two-state solution now would only embolden Hamas. Well, for more, I'm joined now by journalist Kareem Al-Gahari in Cairo, Egypt. Kareem, it's good to see you. This is the first time the Arab League has explicitly condemned Hamas. Why now, and what has changed?
Well, there was a lot of course, in the Israeli media and in the Western media, there was a lot of discussion about that, especially about the point that the signing the demand to disarm Hamas for the first time. The interesting thing, there is not a big discussion in the Arab world about the whole thing, because the Arab states that signed that in New York, together with other states, they see this basically as a package. It's not only about disarming Hamas. There are other demands in the same paper. One of them is, for example, that the Palestinian Authority is going to take on going to fill the power vacuum in the Gaza Strip, taking over from Hamas. A second is, of course, that there are concrete steps towards a Palestinian state. All of that rejected by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now, for the Arab states, there is no pick and choose here. It's not about let's talk about disarming Hamas and forget about the other points. So, in order to look at,
hey, I really don't know how to read who the follower was, but whoever it was, thank you. How did they? Didn't go into the chat. Weird. I'm just learning, guys, so obviously you've seen I haven't had very many videos, but I'm going to be doing more videos like this. I typically watch a little bit of politics, try and keep informed, and I don't know, just looking for people to watch it with for real.
Realistically, it is for the Arab states a package. And if you look at the bigger picture, Hamas basically is a product of the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. So if the occupation ends, if we move towards a Palestinian state, that will pull the political carpet under Hamas. If the occupation continues, there will be always some kind of resistance against this occupation. If it's not Hamas, it might be another organization which we don't even know yet. But this new generation that is pulled out of the carpet, pulled out of the rubble, that is lost family members, that are orphans, they will not accept simply the situation. So the idea to have a peaceful occupation is a contradiction in itself. And that is why in this whole package, steps towards a Palestinian state are so important. And it's also, of course, this recognition of a Palestinian state also, as we can see, is gaining international momentum.
And let me ask you about where you are. You're in Egypt. Was Egypt a driving force behind this declaration, or was it more of a follower?
I think, yes, Egypt was probably a driving force. The Egyptian regime is basically, there's a big fear of the instability in the neighborhood. There's a big fear of that masses of the Palestinians will be displaced into Egypt. So they want to kind of sort out the situation. And for the Egyptian regime itself, they are not a friend of Hamas. Hamas is close to the Muslim Brotherhood, and that is basically the opposition in Egypt that was criminalized since the military takeover. But of course, countries like Egypt have to also take public opinion into consideration. And disarming Hamas without ending the occupation, that kind of thing is a political minefield for all Arab regimes, not only for Egypt.
What do you make of Qatar and Syria signing onto this declaration? I mean, these countries, they have historically been sympathetic to Hamas.
Well, as you can see, Syria is very busy with itself. It's also a different, it's not the old Assad regime, it's a new Syria, but generally speaking, extremely busy with itself. When it comes to Qatar, I would say the same as in the beginning. They also see this as the package, not only this armament, but for example, when it comes to the negotiations, Qatar was also brokering. There was already a point where Hamas basically said, we are ready to give up power if, and that was the condition of Hamas, if there will be a permanent ceasefire and if the Israeli army will withdraw from the...
Boom. So what's the problem? What are we waiting for?
From the Gaza Strip. So that is something Qatar was already brokering. Of course, like a disarmament of Hamas would be another further step ahead of that.
Karim, will this declaration, I mean, it is the first declaration of its kind, but will it make a difference on the ground in Gaza? Will Hamas be moved by this at all? Is this the beginning of the end of Hamas?
Look at the situation. For now, in the Gaza Strip, there is no ceasefire. There is no withdrawal of the Israeli army. Israeli hostages are still in the hands of Hamas. We are not yet at the point of post-war arrangement. We are in the middle of this war, so it will not make a difference.
Look at that place, man. Like, just on the edge of a crater. Like, damn. What kind of bomb leaves a hole like that? I'm fucking glad I was born on this side of the world.
In the middle of this war, so it will not make a difference. And don't forget, Netanyahu rejects many points that are signed in this paper that were signed in New York. Among them, he doesn't want to have the Palestinian Authority to take over power in the Gaza Strip. And of course, he strongly rejects any kind of Palestinian state. So under this condition, right now, I think that you really get serious support from the Arab sides, from the Arab states to disarm Hamas at this point is very unrealistic. I think it's important that they see this whole thing as a package.
And Karim, moving forward in perhaps a post-Netanyahu world, Does this signal a broader Arab pivot away from resistant movements and towards normalization with Israel?
No, I mean, look, the first country that, of course, Israel wants to normalize with, and the US and Trump would like to have this, is Saudi Arabia. And there's a lot of talk since the Abraham Accord that Saudi Arabia will follow. Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, stupid. I hope they just.
So Donald Trump, the Twitter tweeter toddler.
Twitter tweeter toddler. I love this guy. Twitter tweeter toddler
is having a meltdown yet again. This time, bad job numbers came in. So what do? You fire the person who put out the numbers, and then if that's not enough to exert your rage on the world, you try to start a war. This is the headlines today. Seriously, Trump says he moved 2 nuclear submarines after Russia's Medvedev warned U.S. What the heck? And I'm the same with you guys. Like, how do we get on this timeline? Where is there the off ramp? If you find the off ramp from this pipeline, guys, please let me know. This is crazy. This is the job numbers first, which I was in the last video, but I want to show you this chart that really shows where we are. So 73,000 jobs in July. That was the report. Then you had the downward revision on the prior 2 months, right? And this really illustrates. You can see revised down, and you're talking about May and June. The numbers were much, much less than what they originally reported. And essentially, it shows that Trump's policy is absolutely destroying the economy, destroying the job market. He's declared war on global trade, essentially, declared war on everyone, all of us. And now, if you put out numbers that Trump doesn't like, you're going to get fired. Trump fires data statistics chief after large revision to jobs report. I want to go through all the details of this stuff. I know there's a lot to go through, but I want to keep you guys informed. I want to get your thoughts on these things. And it's just crazy. Every day I wake up and I have to check this stuff. Like, is this even real? So yes, I verified this stuff to my knowledge, and I'll show you what's up. Trump positions nuclear submarines following criticism from former Russian leader. Okay, so here's a tweet out by Dmitry Medvedev. Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia, 50 days or 100 or 10. He should remember 2 things. Russia isn't Israel or even Iran. Each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road. What? Okay. Trump then is tweeting back here, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then they start talking about like economies and more fighting. You have to hear it for yourself, because you realize like this is crazy, and it'll also capture the mindset that this guy's in, and you'll see, wow, we need to remove Trump immediately. I think you guys already knew this, but now we're getting to a stage where first like moving nuclear subs around and tweeting out locations of said subs, and get mad at people on social media and then launching things. Obviously this is not a good situation. There's a lot of things that aren't good situations, but now we're getting immediate, like a clear and present danger is one way you can say it. Here's from Trump. I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. From Trump. We have done very little business with India, and I think Trump was threatening 25%, maybe 30% on India. It keeps changing. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way and tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia who thinks he's still president, to watch his words. He's entering very dangerous territory. That's from Trump. Medvedev responded Thursday with a statement saying, if a few words from a former Russian president can provoke such a nervous reaction from the sitting and supposedly formidable president of the United States, so he's taunting Trump here, supposedly formidable president of the United States, then clearly Russia is entirely in the right and will continue on its chosen path.
Wow.
As for his remarks about the, quote, dead economies of India and Russia and venturing into dangerous territory, perhaps he should revisit his favorite movies about the living dead and recall just how dangerous the mythical, quote, dead hand can be. And then I guess the dead hand referring to Russia's system for automatically launching nuclear strikes if a nuclear attack is detected against the country. So, of course, the markets are down. Dow tumbles 500 points.
Damn. This guy's going to start nuclear war. Fuck this guy, man. Like, it's just dangerous. This guy's got the nuclear football. There is no deep state. If there was a deep state, somebody would have pulled the plug by now. Somebody would have pulled the plug. Donald is the deep state. And the deep state is not all cognitively there. Yet he has the nuclear football. Wow. That's scary.
Weak jobs data, right? New tariffs, sparks a sell-off. This was Bloomberg. Bad news is bad news. Jobs data shatters Wall Street's calm. And, we're dealing with, like, every day, what's going on. So, also from Bloomberg, we'll read the description of this stuff. Many economists have noted that the Trump's punitive tariffs, right, the tariffs, and his attempt to single-handedly rewrite the rules of international trade, so that's Trump, he's always on his own, trying to unilaterally start wars, unilaterally do trade, unilaterally do everything, right, all by himself. And it's all for, Trump's glory. He wants to put his name everywhere in gold, all by himself. That's Trump. And it's interesting when I go through this stuff every day with you guys, how you have to report it seriously because it is serious, but it's also a joke at the same time because this stuff is so insane. Like on a daily basis, this stuff is crazy. Okay, single-handedly right, the rules of international trade are now undermining the economy that lower rates that would help support it, right? So the problem is Trump, his policies are inflationary, raising tariffs going to raise the cost all on you. The economy then slows, so you can't really, you can try to cut rates, but then you got inflation problems. So it's like, what am I more worried about? Am I worried about the slowing economy or worried about runaway inflation? So the Fed, that's why they've just been on hold. That's sort of what this is all about. Regarding the firing of the person who put out the job numbers recently, this is what Trump says. There's a lot, but I'll just read a little bit of it. I was just informed that our country's jobs numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica, the commissioner of the labor statistics, who faked the job numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chance of victory. This is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that oversees the jobs growth in March 2024. And then it goes on, the economy is booming under Trump, despite a Fed that also plays games and times with interest rates that would need to be lowered them twice, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So Trump did fire said person, I guess. That has been reported. Trump's labor secretary is then like, oh, yes, I agree with Trump, right? I wholeheartedly with POTUS that our jobs numbers must be fair, accurate, and never manipulated for political purposes. A string of major revisions have come to light and raised concerns about the decision made by the Biden-appointed labor commissioner, right? So they're having a tweet storm and a frantic panic. Those job numbers are bad due to Trump's poor policy, right? So then you fire the person numbers, you put in someone that you like. If you guys are curious what Trump's whole plan is, and I keep showing you guys this stuff because sometimes people don't believe me because it seems like so stupid, but this is their plan. They want to make America the crypto capital of the world. This is just an hour ago. So their idea is we're going to cut as many regulations as possible. So, if anyone's going to audit anyone's books, well, fire the auditors. If anyone's going to enforce, regulations on trading, this kind of stuff, well, fire anyone who regulates, right? You get the idea here. And then he'll put out videos of how much he loves crypto. And this is actually a real tweet by the Trump people today. I know it's laughable. Look at this picture and stuff they use. They put Trump in a boxing, having a championship type thing. And it says POTUS versus global trade order. U.S. delivers knockout win. It's funny, it's sad, it's crazy. Trillions of new investments they claim, and they claim billions in market access. So, I read this stuff because it illustrates the sort of crazy timeline that we're on. President Trump delivered a knockout win over the distorted global trading order that has disadvantaged American workers, farmers, and manufacturers for decades. That's what they say. J.D. Vance then is saying, hey guys, I was told 6 months ago that American losing jobs and foreign-born gaining jobs was an irreversible demographic fact. Okay, so I guess we're celebrating that more Native Americans are getting jobs, supposedly. That's what we're saying here. And then you have this. I know there's a lot of news to go over, but I want to keep you guys informed. Someone at the Fed has announced they're going to retire early. This was the headlines just a few minutes ago. Federal Reserve Governor Kugler, part of the committee that sets interest rates, is resigning. This is actually happening. So this would be give Trump an opening to put one of his people in there. I think he's got 2 people in there now. Effectively, I don't think there's any necessary shenanigans with this thing. Just giving Trump opportunity because she was scheduled to leave already. I'll read it. You'll see. Quote: It has been an honor of a lifetime to serve on the board of governors of the Federal Reserve System. I'm especially honored to have served during a critical time in achieving our dual mandate of bringing down prices and keeping a strong, resilient labor board. Okay, but then this says here, Kugler's term was set to expire at the end of January 2026. Okay, so she was scheduled to go soon, and then I guess she was offered another job. I think she's going to teach at Georgetown. I don't think there's any shenanigans. I'm just telling you the truth on that one, but yes, Trump will put one of his people in there, and ultimately he's going to try to push out more people. This particular one, I'll just say what it is. The person stepping down, and Trump will try to put one of his people in. We'll leave it at that. And then you have this, which is also related, Corporation for Public Broadcasting shutting down after federal funding rescission. So, if you grew up in USA, I did. So I grew up watching Sesame Street and Reading Rainbow and Bob Ross and, any number of shows on. In my mind, I can't think of the name of the show. It was the one where they bring in the antiques. It's like Antiques Roadshow, and they say, "Oh my God, dude, I've been having this painting in my grandma's attic, and it's worth like $1 million." The show. But all of these things on public broadcasting, it's for the public education, right? And Trump's completely against education. Doesn't want educated people at all. The same way he doesn't want anyone reporting any kind of reasonable or real numbers out there. He just wants this crazy inflated stuff to inflate his ego, and then he'll distract you with whatever. Some people say, Chris, this is all about the Epstein thing. We can talk about that. I mention it from time to time. If there's big movements on that stuff, I'll say, hey, there's big movements on that stuff. But I think, honestly, that's just a part of a larger picture of the corrupt persona and the corrupt practices by Trump for decades. Right? Not just wake up one day and Trump's a bad person. This has been going on for years. I've told you guys about the movie The Apprentice. If you haven't seen it, you should see that. It just talks about Trump's early years. It shows you he's been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. And it's a shame and a tragedy and complete disaster that Trump is president right now. I know it, guys. I literally see everything. And, right now, we just need to be honest about everything that's happening. And if you are a Republican out there or you're working in Trump's administration, show some guts here and do the right thing, guys. We can't have this guy in office. It's obvious. The problem is that we just had an election, and the way that I don't know how that would play out, right? The way they would paint that on Fox News and says, "Oh, see, the other side doesn't, value elections and this kind of stuff," right? That's how they'll play that. So they'll take that as an attack on democracy. And it's sad because Trump is clearly the one who's attacking democracy. Like literally had his supporters storm the Capitol. You guys know this. In January 6th, they lie on a daily basis. Guys, I know it. I see it. And he just does these erratic things. It's all self-serving. It's only for him. He just wants to put money in his pocket. He doesn't care at all about regular people. And so when I see this stuff, like nothing is surprising anymore. You get bad job numbers. You fire the job person. Things are going bad with you, whatever scandals, whatever. You try to start a war, start announcing nuclear threats by moving your nuclear subs around. Like he shows no signs of humanity. He's all in it for himself. Isn't it crazy that this guy's in charge of everything? So that's where we are right now. And just guys, if you feel like the whole world's gone mad and you feel like you're alone and like why isn't someone do something? I just want to know you're not alone. And that's why I'm saying it's really we need to get Trump's own people to take some real action here and come to your senses that you serve the Constitution and you serve the people. Don't and this is what Trump people would do. They put out a bunch of loyalty tests before you go work and say, who do you value more, Trump or the Constitution? You have to vote for Trump, right? But I'm telling you guys, it's you need to put the Constitution first and the American people first. That's who you work for. So that's my thoughts on this stuff.
Thanks, buddy.
Joining us now, Senator Alyssa Slatkin of Michigan. Senator, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We have a very limited amount of time. This is the internet, so you're here, and it's important that we ask some of the questions that are animating some of the younger voters and others. I assume that's part of the reason that you're here. The first is about Jeffrey Epstein. It's a story that's really captured a lot of America's interest. So you're a former CIA officer. Do you think that Jeffrey Epstein had any connections to U.S. or Israeli intelligence agencies?
So, not that I've ever seen or heard, but there's No, I haven't asked. But this is like a solvable question because President Trump's CIA director, John Radcliffe, can answer this question, right? There is no shortage of people in this administration who can answer that question. I would be very surprised. I'm going to be honest. I know your views on it. I would be surprised.
Okay.
But I'm like a Middle East analyst. I was doing my time going after terrorist groups and militias in Iraq. And so I never saw it. I never heard anything about that. I, again, would be surprised, but there's an easy way to solve that problem.
Well, that's the question then. So in terms of, I know you've expressed some concern about classified information, et cetera, in the past, would you be fine then with the full release of these Trump Epstein files, even if they did reveal an intelligence connection?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, like, it's such a distraction from, in my mind, like what I really care about, which is helping people like live well in Michigan. Just get it over with and get it out. And this wasn't like my issue. It's still not the thing that wakes me up in the morning and I want to work on. But I think it's okay to say it's a full distraction now in Washington. Everyone's talking about it. So just unveil it, do whatever you need to do, answer the questions, and move past it.
Well, that's the last question then. So there's some accusations here from the Republicans on Epstein here, just about why didn't you care for 4 years? I know you asked the question in 2020. You said I don't care particularly about Bill Clinton, et cetera. I mean, that's somewhat understandable, but we do have like a person, very specific circumstances, let alone the sex trafficking organization and others. So why don't you answer that question? Like, why is this now is the time that you do care?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's horrible when you have a pedophile and someone who had a literal pyramid scheme of recruiting 14 and 15-year-old girls for illegal sex. I mean, it's horrible. At the time, I mean, I sort of saw it as like one of these horrible stories that comes out every 5 months, about somebody. I think the Weinstein thing had happened. There weren't Michiganders, to my knowledge, who were involved, women, young girls who were involved. So I kind of saw it as like a horrible moment, but not particularly something that's like going to decide whether someone in my state can buy a house or get a good job. So to me, it was just like it wasn't like a strategic issue, right, for me. And then now it just is like grown. And I think there is a difference between saying some rich guy or a former politician was named in those things versus the president of the United States. That to me is apples to oranges because one of them is leading the free world and one of them's not. So if his name is in there as it appears it is, just like deal with it and like.
First of all, president used to lead the free world. What you guys now is like, he's leading y'all. He's leading y'all, okay?
Let's get on with it at this point. And, my 10-year-old nephew understands that the president is trying to dodge, trying to distract, trying to talk about other things. He hates answering this question. Like, we get it. So it feels off to the average person, right? To a 10-year-old, they're like, did he do something, right? So just get through it, get it out, and let's move on to for me, like real economic issues.
So then if piece of legislation comes forward, you would vote for it to support the release of the files. Sure. Okay, all right. So then let's talk about the future of the Democratic Party, and that's something you've been interested in. Democratic approval hit an all-time low from the Wall Street Journal. At the same time, we've seen the rise more recently of anti-establishment candidates, people like Zoran Mamdani. Give us some of your thoughts there about the future of the Democratic Party, and particularly in the context of Mamdani's victory in New York City.
Well, I guess as a good Midwesterner and Michigander, I'm never going to say that what happens in New York City represents all of America. Sorry, we're a big country, and I would never pretend to totally understand New York City politics. I didn't particularly understand Eric Adams. I didn't particularly understand, I genuinely, right? But I think the message and the hot take out of that election is actually not terribly dissimilar from what we heard in the November election when Trump won, right? Which is people are still focused on the cost of living and not being able to achieve what they thought they could achieve, right? And then number two, people are looking for a new generation of leadership. I don't think it's hard to miss those hot takes. I can have plenty of disagreements with what I've heard Mr. Mamdani propose, and I do. But that message coming out of that election—
What do you disagree with?
Just, my family was a 4th generation hot dog business. Like, I am here because we live the American dream through capitalism.
Okay.
And so, like a lot of free stuff, to me, is not the answer. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think that it actually fixes the underlying problem. But I can have those disagreements. I think this is I would be thrilled to have that conversation with him or anyone else about like, hey, we agree that there's an economic problem here. what we do to solve it, let's have that debate. And adults can debate and not like want to kill each other's children.
Well, let's talk then about leadership. So you just talked about that. We see a lot of that from our show. Some of the Democratic side of our audience is furious with Democratic leadership. I mean, do you still support Chuck Schumer's leadership? He doesn't get an interview in about a month.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I've now served in the Senate for 6 months and the House before that. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have hard jobs. Like herding cats, it's not fun. I've said for a very long time, long before I got into the Senate and long before President Biden dropped out, that we need a new generation of leadership. You can feel it in, and I think at this point, I mean, especially New York, right? You're looking at New York, it's like, I'd rather roll the dice with someone new than have like the warmed over leftovers that I've already known. So I think we have a problem with that across the board. And I think one of the things I can do as the youngest Democratic woman in the Senate, and I'm not young, I'm just young for the Senate, to be clear.
You're young for us.
I mean, is push
You could be
on that and try to give younger leaders a voice in this party in a very real way. And to me, that's upward pressure. That pressure that you're talking about from the people is good.
So then shouldn't they endorse him? I mean, what kind of a message, Schumer and Jeffries, shouldn't they endorse?
They're both from New York.
They're both New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And what kind of a message does it send if, like, I mean, this guy won the Democratic primary. Yeah. He's the Democratic nominee. It was overwhelming. If then the centrist leadership of the party said, we can't get behind it.
I mean, you just asked me before we started the exact same question about the Michigan Senate primary, and I'm like, Michigan Democrats don't get involved in primaries. We all are friends. So I can't speak to what they're doing. I think, I hope that they're meeting. I mean, if this person is...
They did.
Yeah, okay,
and Hakeem Jeffries still refused to endorse him. I mean, think about it from this context. Like, let's say in 2028, a more moderate figure wins the Democratic primary, and a bunch of progressives, AOC or whoever says, we're not backing, we don't agree with you. I feel like you would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I will say this, the way that this party works is when there's a coalition that sticks together. That's like a numbers issue. That's a data issue. And so I'm always going to be someone who's trying to find unity. That doesn't mean we all agree with each other. And I think, I wasn't in the conversations where they met privately. What they debated, what they talked about, I don't know. But to me, we got to figure out what's common among all Democrats right now. And that's why I focus on the economy, because that is, to me, the cost of living and people not being able to achieve what their parents achieved is the existential issue of our time, is the unifying issue of like all the right-wing, left-wing, like Americans. I don't even think it's a Democratic Party thing. And to me, that's where I spend my time, because I think 80% of my constituents in Michigan, that's where they live, is like, I just want to be able to go to Disneyland and take my kids the way my dad took me. So that's where I focus on. I'm happy to sit down with any leader. I can't speak to their particular decision to endorse or not. I'm not endorsing in my own
Right, but
primary.
just last question on
he won the primary.
Right, that's my question.
That's what's different.
By
Why
12
points?
They have another election though, yeah?
The general election.
Yeah,
He's the Democratic nominee.
I see, I'm sorry. This is why I'm saying I don't follow New York politics. And I think you'd have to ask them. I don't know. I know that for me, whoever wins the Democratic primary in the state of Michigan for the Senate seat that's up, that's who I will endorse, regardless of who it is.
All right, that was my last question. So I'm going to turn it to Chris.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm actually a little curious, and forgive me if this is impolite. Like, I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, like, we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out. So I'm curious what your goal was and why you thought to come here.
Well, first of all, I think you have a good audience. I mean, right?
We agree.
If you appeal to like 4 friends on YouTube or whatever, then I probably.
Oh, this is about to get good.
Probably wouldn't be here. But I think, to me, part of the problem is that people have kind of gone to their corners. And I live this, right? I live on my family farm in a town that voted heavily for Donald Trump. I've never won my town. I've never won my precinct. I've never won my neighbors. We get along, but I never won them, and I probably never will. So to me, I think that the people have gone to their corners, and like people who used to be able to talk about politics and disagree don't even get in the same room together. So I kind of like the idea of your show. Like, it was interesting to me when my team pitched me, right? We go through, and like, there's no hiding it. Lots of people are like, how do we evolve in this new space? You know, like that's not it's not that conversation isn't happening. It is, and I think that's good, and to the credit of lots of shows like yours.
Yeah.
But I think your show appealed to me as I was being pitched because you guys don't agree. And like, I am very focused. My dad was a lifelong Republican, my mom a lifelong Democrat. Like, Michiganders want to get back to a place where we can disagree on politics and not have it be so like bitter.
So I hear you on the idea of like you want to talk about the economics and the unifying and cost of living, and I think that ignores a big elephant in the room, especially when you're talking about even Zohran Mamdani. The reason Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer don't want to endorse him is because of his position on Israel. The single most viral clip that he had in that election actually wasn't about cost of living, even though that's what he wanted to make his campaign about. His opponent, Sandra Coleman in particular, wanted to make it all about accusing him of anti-Semitism and attacking him for his views on Israel and Palestine. So the most viral moment from that entire campaign, I believe, was this moment on the debate stage. Guys, this is E1. Let me go ahead and play this for you, and then I want to get your reaction.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
As a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
Now, this was considered very controversial when he said it, and I think the results are in at this point that he didn't win in spite of his position there. He won in part because of it, including if you listen to Andrew Cuomo's numbers, he won a majority of Jewish voters inside of New York City. And so what I'm curious for your view on is, while, you know, I would love to debate you on your healthcare policy, I think we need Medicare for all, you think public option, your housing policy, et cetera. I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza. And that's for me, you know, I'm speaking for myself, but I know there are millions of other people who feel the same, that you have to at least cross this sort of moral threshold. And what it indicates to people, and I think part of why, you know, Zoran won so many people in New York City, young people in particular, but Jewish New Yorkers, people across the board, is because it was a sign of, number one, okay, you're focused on New York City first and foremost. Number two, you're willing to take the heat on an issue that is really difficult for you, where you're being overtly smeared as an anti-Semite. And number three, there's no, you know, entrenched interest that's going to control you. You have a spine, you have principles, you're willing to stand up for something. And so, you know, I'm curious for your reflections on that because of your voting record and where you've stood on this conflict.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the proudest moments that I had in my last election, where I just won on the same ballot as Donald Trump, was that I won a majority of Jewish voters in Michigan. We have a large Jewish population. And I won Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck, the 3 Muslim-dominated cities. Trump won 2 out of the 3. So I think the thing that I would push back on is the voters vote with their feet, right? We have a moment in an election where they get to decide. And there was no issue that was more difficult for me in this last, I would say 6 years, but certainly in this last election, other than this issue, because it's personal. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do, and why I think I managed to win both those communities, is call balls and strikes, literally up to this week, on what's going on.
So let's talk a little bit more about that.
But I think it's important, right? If you're going to push on me, then I think like there's one of us that's had an election and had to appeal to my voters and win. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Mr. Mamdani won. Or actually, I didn't know his name. I didn't know much about him until he won. But because I think this issue is motivating people in a very visceral and personal way.
Yeah.
But it's not the only issue that my voters in Michigan care about.
Of course.
Oh, she's trying. I think it's really important, and she thinks she's doing real good right now.
And the online world is extremely, extremely focused on this, but that doesn't always represent the majority. And I think if I can push back, like if we're out on the road every day in Michigan when I'm there. In some communities, that issue is the #1 issue, 100%. And like, I mean, up till this morning, right? Like people texting my phone and talking about a plan, something we're working on. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
But Senator, it's not just a political issue, it's also a moral issue, is what I'm trying to get to. So let's talk about those, you know.
100%, 100%. There are lots of people that don't know shit about Palestine, don't know shit about anything past their home, their way to work, and that's about it. But it's a moral issue, like, and we elect, like, and you elect leaders to rep you, right? Like, to rep you, to pay attention to these things. So I don't think just because, oh, you know, like, shouldn't you raise it? Shouldn't you raise the issue?
I'm calling them balls and strikes, if you will. So first of all, do you accept that Israel has a policy of enforced famine and starvation in the Gaza Strip?
I think I literally put my name on a letter yesterday or last night that says like a policy of starvation, people are starting to starve. And in general, I mean, I served in places like Ramadi and Fallujah. I watched in 2004 and 2005, Al-Qaeda terrorists drag American citizens behind a vehicle until they died, right? Like horrible, and then string them up like a lynching.
Okay.
We still had a responsibility to get aid into Fallujah, despite the fact that we were fighting Al-Qaeda cells in Fallujah, and I have been clear about that.
So this is a crime against humanity. Forced starvation is a crime against humanity.
The occupying power has a responsibility to get aid into the war zone, period.
So
by the law of war.
So in addition, do you accept that the Israeli plan, as reported by Haaretz, as discussed openly by ministers like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, as backed by the President of the United States, is forced ethnic cleansing?
I think we have, as recently as yesterday, the Prime Minister of Israel talking about forced migration into certain areas and then potentially out of the country. That is not legal. That is not on any international standard since World War II. And I've been clear about that.
That is not legal.
So I would ask for a little bit of an open mind.
Well, what I would ask is,
she hates that she's pushing back. She wants a puff piece. And like, if you go watch the Colbert one, she's a little funny, you know, Colbert's a little cheeky, and that's what she thinks. And she's about to get crystal. You know, her and Kyle talked about this, and like, oh God.
Listen, I'm a YouTuber. You know, I have my words. That's all I have. But you're a United States Senator. Like, you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. You know, you have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, you know, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, you know, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your
Boom! Oh, she's getting it on her voting record. You can just, she's gripping that cup I'm surprised that cup doesn't break. She's like, damn, my voting record. Shit. On the real news, they don't bring that shit up.
your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now Democrats own nothing in Washington. So don't
play powerless with me. You're a United States senator. There are things you can do.
In terms of who runs our foreign policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest in Manhattan yesterday.
Okay. I think it's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, the number of protests that go on now versus before.
Well, they were part of your political coalition.
Well, that's
right?
Senator Slotkin.
That's fair.
Obviously, I'm here.
Yeah.
I was very upset over the Biden administration policy, and as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy. Yeah. So let's deal not in strawman, but me and
but
here
in
now.
terms of so the tools that I have, the tools that we have in general, to me, the most important thing is
When she says the tools that I have, okay, maybe you're not going to win anything, but why vote to sanction the ICC for whatever criminal thing that they did? What's it called? They calling Netanyahu a war criminal. Why sanction them for that? And is sanctioning for them for that that? What? How did that help anything?
pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today. And that.
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
There is a difference between a weapon to protect a country from incoming missiles versus other type. Offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me, would be a place to look, but I'm not going to cut off a blanket next sale on a defensive weapon that comes through. No.
I also reject that because, for example, if, Senator Slotkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran,
but they're defensive. They're just protecting civilians, right? So how is it different?
But because Israel's being shot at.
So is Iran. So is Russia.
Ukraine's shooting at Russia right now.
I'm sorry. This is the difference between allies, partners, and adversaries.
Bullshit. This is the difference between allies and adversaries. This is bullshit. Just you guys don't even put your president on a leash when you talk shit about Canada. This is the difference between allies and... So what? You guys can treat allies however the fuck you want? But, no, you're stupid.
Why is it an ally then? What are they doing right now which makes it an ally?
I think allied relationships, just like Lithuania right now, an allied relationship or a partner relationship is a long-standing relationship of information sharing and diplomacy. And that is, to me, it's not every day we decide Lithuania is our ally or not. We're allied or not. And sometimes we have big breaks with allies. Right? Sometimes we have difficult moments with allies. Sometimes it goes the wrong way with allies. But an allied relationship is a long-term relationship.
It's hard for me to understand why we should ally. I'm sure you believe in or claim to believe in liberal human rights. Why would we ally with a nation that is committing a genocide and live streaming it?
Can I ask literally this? I think about this from the mirror image way because I do not support the things that Donald Trump is doing, right? But I'm an American. So do I want other countries to look at America and be like, we can't stand Donald Trump, so we're going to end any longstanding relationship we have with the American people. We're going to cut off any support we give them on information sharing or intelligence sharing. We are not just our elected leaders. And I think that's the...
Yeah, first of all, that's already happening. Okay? Second of all, yeah. You guys elected him. You guys have, especially in the United States, you guys have the power to dethrone this motherfucker. Kick him out, right? It's called impeachment. You can do it. Right? You can rally up support if it was really important. But it's not. It's not, is it? It's not important. You actually kind of like it, right? Build this little island for the elites. You know? You kind of like it when he says you're the biggest superstore or whatever. What did he call it? Fucking department store. The best department store. You on some level, this lady thinks, he's right. He's right. So he should treat other people like that. And that's why we're like, fuck you. We're never, ever gonna buy American shit again. And, like, I'm in Canada, okay? You guys talk some shit. You guys literally turned off intel on the Ukrainians. I'm going to find a Ukrainian. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to find a Ukrainian here in Canada. And I'm going to ask him and be like, hey, you ever going to buy anything American again? If at all possible? I doubt it. I doubt it. Doubt it.
The thing that's been lost.
Do you so B'Tselem and another Israeli human rights organization joined the Global Consensus Amnesty International, some 800 scholars. There was a piece from an Israeli scholar in the New York Times in saying this is a genocide. Do you accept, even Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday came out and said it's a genocide. Do you accept that? And if you do, I mean, what responsibility does a United States senator have for, this is a nation that, we send every year billions of dollars to aid that you have, voted for and supported. What responsibility does a United States senator have to prevent genocide and to stop genocide that we see ongoing?
We have a responsibility up till today to ensure that food is getting in.
Is it a genocide?
People don't starve. I don't know that I'd use that term.
Why?
But it is violating the law of war.
Why don't you use the term though?
Because I think, it's, to me, do I think it's ethnic cleansing, which is what I think of in genocide? I don't know if it meets that definition.
Didn't you say it earlier that it was ethnic cleansing? You said that they wanted to force it. I mean, this is open from the Israeli government. Like, they're saying it. They're
and from Trump,
national
too.
security. They come out and they're like, we don't need shells. We need shells, not food. And we need to encourage migration. They're saying
you're not going to get me to support what the Israeli government is saying right now. I think the point I was trying to make is it's not just about, we have relationships with nations over time, regardless of who their leaders are. We have really tough moments. We have easier moments.
How
but
long
that
has
doesn't. I'm not willing to
Netanyahu
say
been around?
that,
This motherfucker's been around for a long ass time. When are you going to make his decision on him? When does Israel become Netanyahu for being Netanyahu? Long-standing ally.
I hate everything ever.
Sure, but so
future.
even if you accept that they're committing a genocide, you still wouldn't cut off their aid?
I think that defensive aid and offensive aid are different things, and I think at this point,
so
if they're
Nazi
doing
Germany,
every single day,
if Nazi Germany said we want defensive aid, I mean, it's just you have to see where they're all weapons that are being shipped.
The weapons that they're using right now, I mean, to be honest, if you look at what's happening on the ground, the military part of this conflict is, for the most part, over. What they are doing every single day is around aid, and they are hurting people around the delivery of aid.
They have slaughtered over 1,000 people who were starving people just trying to get aid.
That is that's not high-intensity bombs. That's not the weapons that we were talking about 2 years ago. It's just not. I'm sorry. Every single day, the military reports that I read, they are traditional, this is a military that has a bad strategy. It is not the...
Bad. This is a military that has a bad strategy. They're literally luring people, starving people with food, and then shooting them when they get there. To this lady, that's a bad strategy.
Bombs that we were seeing 2 years ago.
It's not a military that has a bad strategy. The strategy is forced starvation.
That's
their strategy, and they're accomplishing it very effectively with the full backing of the United States government, including sadly Democrats. And so, a couple more questions that I know you have to run. I'm curious why you.
So notice how about 5-10 minutes ago the questions started getting a little bit more intense, and now she's saying, I have to run, and you're gonna see that they're her people are yo, get out of here, because they realize it's going down. They realize that, you know what I mean, this isn't going well for her. So now they're going to try and cut the interview short. I realize you only have 5 minutes left. And realistically, it's a 29-minute interview. It could really be coming close on time. But I'm thinking that her team is probably we're getting fucked up. We're taking hits. Okay.
You condemned Rashida Tlaib for using the rally chant, from the river to the sea, something she said for her evokes equal rights. And you have not condemned Randy Fine, who said that Gazans should, quote, starve away, who floated that the Gaza Strip should be nuked, who called Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Soran as well, called them Muslim terrorists. Where is the concern over him?
I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know. I don't know who that person is. I have no problem condemning someone who talks like that.
Senator, we have to ask you last question because your staff is telling us. Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that
your staff is telling us, and I actually like Cigar. He's like, okay, let's get off of all the war and all the tough stuff about killing children, about stuff like that, about your voting record. Let's get off the tough stuff. Let's just talk about AIPAC for a minute. It seems a little bit more political. So her staff can they're probably losing their minds. They are probably losing their minds right now off camera.
I know plenty of people who think they should. You know, I don't.
It's kind of a cop-out answer, don't you think?
I mean, I literally, I just guess I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization. And
so you stop accepting their funding?
You gotta get your facts straight. I have not been endorsed by AIPAC. I have not. I'm sorry. I was the first Jew elected to the Senate that was not endorsed by any Jewish group. AIPAC, J Street.
She's taking $600,000 from AIPAC. I know that for sure. Maybe she did it in the first round. You gotta get your facts right. Shut up. You took $600,000.
You've been the recipient of their funds.
In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, yes. But I've not been endorsed since then. And I just got to be honest. Like, I think that this is where facts really matter. I've had very, very difficult conversations with my colleagues in that organization and made a choice back in 2021. So that was the first time I was up for re-election. So I understand that there's a sort of, like, again, cornered position. But to me, like, I call balls and strikes as someone who served in the Middle East.
I have one more question I have to ask you. You know,
Sure, if you call balls and strikes, let's talk about your voting record.
You do the show, I really do my best to try to uphold, like, you know, basic human rights, Palestinian humanity, oppose the killing of innocent civilians wherever that happens. And I have to tell you, like, I feel really guilty that I'm not doing enough. I think all the time about, I'm a mom, I think all the time about those moms who can't feed their babies. Those babies are starving to death. And I just want to know, like, you're a United States Senator, you did vote for some of the bombs that were dropped on refugee camps. I mean, kids have been sniped in the head. Tents firebombed, people set on fire. The entire Gaza Strip turned into rubble. And now we're seeing these emaciated bodies of babies starving to death every day. And like,
know what you can
does
do.
it eat you up? Does it eat you up? Do you think, like, what more could I do? Do you regret any of your votes? Do you regret any
what I was working on this morning? A group of...
Oh, does it eat you up? This is a question, okay, props to Crystal. Big props to Crystal. This is a question that no reporter is ever going to ask someone in power. Because this lady is never coming back to this show. Ever, ever. And probably her Democrat friends, they're like, Crystal, I'm not going. I'm not going. You know, like, because... Does it bug you? Like, when you see the babies, like, does it bug you? Why do you keep voting? It's uncomfortable. Why do you keep voting that way then?
Jewish rabbis and Muslim community leaders came together with a proposal that we are working on just getting, like, if we can't get other aid in, at least get baby formula and nutritional supplements for children in.
You know, like, I want her to get that in. I want her to get that aid in. But you just said they're forced starving people. So, like, till what age are we talking? You're going to get baby formula and nutritional supplements till, like, they're 3. Then they can die. And they can just suffer for those 3 years on whatever little scraps that you can get them. This is like... She has the power of the purse. Okay? Technically, as a senator, Congress, war would have to be declared there. Israel can't keep bombing if you stop giving them money, which is the power of the purse, which is within her, what she can do.
Let that be kind of a green light, never has a problem, no one's trying to eat baby formula other than a baby, right? That is the proposal that I've been working on all night and this morning. So in terms of what we're trying to do, there's not a moment that goes by that this isn't something that I'm working on and something that my own community, not online, but my own community has practical things that they want to do. They're willing to raise the money. They're willing to buy the formula. They're willing to do whatever we need to do to get it shipped in. That's how I spend my time.
But you're not willing to cut off aid to Israel?
That to me is the most effective thing that I can do today.
This is not a question. Your staff is telling us you absolutely have to go. So we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you. We will see you all tomorrow. Or Counterpoints, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Your staff is obviously telling her she absolutely has to go because nobody's going to ask a question like what Crystal just asked. Nobody's going to ask that question, you know, and Crystal probably knew it, you know. Good job. It'd be like in the press corps, like somebody just asking Donald Trump, like, are you fucking okay? Are you okay? Like, are you fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like, do you need help? What is your problem? But nobody's going to ask that question. Nobody's going to ask that question. He can mispronounce words. He can fucking go off on rants, like stupid-ass rants. And no one's going to be like, are you okay, bro? Like, do you need water, like coffee, like maybe another cognitive test? Like, what the fuck? And that was the equivalent of that question. You know, because what's the answer to that question? Yeah. Good job, Crystal.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button.
And cigar. Sorry.
We have a great relationship. Yeah, we have a great relationship with South Korea.
Are you ready? Are you open to negotiate with Brazil? The Brazilian President Lula said he'd like to call you the president over there. Will you talk to me now?
He can talk to me anytime he wants.
So are you open to tariffs?
Yeah, he can talk to me anytime he wants.
What is on the table for
I hate these ones with the plane in the background. Can't hear anything.
Turning now to immigration, yet another landscape being significantly transformed by Trump policies. The Department of Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem met this week with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Arizona law enforcement agents who are searching for illegal immigrants in the Phoenix area. Here's what she said yesterday.
Also, we're working hard on enforcing the Alien Enemies Act, which I'm sure you saw the Supreme Court made a decision on yesterday. And we are going to continue to use that to deport the worst of the worst out of our communities and make sure they're facing consequences.
So the crackdown has affected thousands of migrants, but one particular story has grabbed attention. Canadian actress and entrepreneur Jasmine Mooney was recently detained by ICE for 12 days while attempting to renew her work visa. Hari Srinivasan spoke with her about this experience in detention and why she's using her voice now to advocate for immigration reform.
Christian, thanks. Jasmine Mooney, thanks so much for joining us. Jasmine, our audience might have heard a little bit about your story. You were somebody who's an entrepreneur, an actress, and you have been working in Canada and the United States, but you were recently detained for 12 days. Why were you kind of between these countries, and what made you want to go get another work visa for the United States?
So my visa journey started a year ago. I had this amazing opportunity to launch a brand called Holy Water out of California that is holistic medicine, metabolic health, and I went to originally apply for my TN visa a year ago.
And what's a TN visa for people who might not know?
A TN visa is a business consultant visa. And so I originally applied for that visa at the Canadian border. And I got denied over some minor paperwork issues. And the agent told me, you can come back tomorrow and reapply. And so my lawyer, he was based in San Diego, and he told me, you know what, Jasmine, just come down to San Diego. I'll come with you to the office to make sure that nothing is missing in your paperwork. And we'll just get this done. So that's what I did. And I went down there and I got my visa within half an hour. And I was then working in California. And I still had my place in Canada, in Vancouver. So I was going back and forth, no issues there for just under a year. And the first issue I had started 4 months ago. So I was in Vancouver, traveling back to LA, and I got stopped. And the agent told me, he's like, why were you originally denied and then went to the San Diego border? That seems really shady. And I explained my situation, and he told me, well, you aren't allowed to process visas there. And long story short, they took my visa away.
Okay, so this is an important distinction. I've been kind of wondering about this because I got a buddy that lives in Vancouver, and he's like, you know, he's a Tesla fanboy, and for the most part, like, you know, he knows some of the straight facts, but like, he's a Tesla fanboy. So if you ask him, Russia is the aggressor on Ukraine, like he can identify that, stuff like that. But you know, he's still a little bit like, you know, he used to go to the States all the time, Bellingham, like bang, 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 all the time. Like every time we're there, you know, he's like, let's go Bellingham and this and that. He doesn't do it anymore because of the tariffs, because not because he's not willing to pay him or whatever, but because border security is just checking everything and making sure you pay GST on what you buy in the States. So it's becoming a longer process, a harder process. So that kind of deterred him from going to the States. But otherwise, he would be going to the States right now. Like, you know, it's like some of my Canadian friends are like that. They're just like, well, whatever. It's not going to happen to us. And then there's some of us that are like, there's a chance we can end up in Alligator Alcatraz. No, we're cool, bro. Like, you know, it's just not that good. But anyways, and he drives a Tesla, so he's like an Elon fanboy and stuff like that. So when I talked to him about Mooney a while back, he's like, oh yeah, she tried to blah, 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 blah. But it's interesting to know that she had her visa for a few months, and then they bring up this situation.
Were you in America at the time, or were you in Canada at the time?
I was in Canada. I was traveling back to LA, and they stopped me, and then I wasn't allowed back into the country until I got that sorted. So I actually got offered another position with another health and wellness brand. And I talked to lawyers. I said, I want to reapply for my TN visa and work with this company. Is that an issue? And they said, no. And I said, well, I want to go to the same office that I went to. Should that be an issue? No. The worst that would happen is you get denied, like you've been denied before, and then we figure that out after that. So never in a million years did I think that what happened to me would have happened.
So you went to the United States, to the Customs and Border Protection Office, is that right?
So it wasn't America. It's the Mexican border that goes into San Diego. So that's where my visa was processed before. I was familiar with it. I had no issues. And so I went back there.
So you had not been in the United States illegally up until you walked across the border to go to the Border Patrol office. Am I right there?
Yeah, so it was the immigration office. You walk in through Mexico into the immigration office where they process visas. That's where I was.
Okay, and then what happens?
So I get there. I have all my paperwork, and it was just such a roller coaster. First, they said I wasn't eligible for this visa, and then they called their supervisor, and I was. Then they approved my visa, and then I was sitting down, and while they were processing my visa, they said that there's issues with my passport because it was going to expire in 2 years. So it was just one thing after another. I was in that office for, I think, 6 hours. And finally, at the very end, I was sitting there. Well, after they had said, like, yes, you are eligible for this visa, I get called back up, and they go, okay, we're so sorry, but unfortunately, because you've had issues with your visa in the past, with the denial and it being voided, in order to get your visa, you need to apply through the consulate. And I said, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. I'll go do that. And they go, it's okay, you didn't do anything wrong, you're not in trouble, you're not a criminal. And at the time, I thought that language was very odd. Like, why would they use that? And they go, but we have to send you back to Canada. And I said, okay, like I was planning on going back anyway. And then this man came out and he said, Jasmine, please follow me. And he took me to this room, and that's where it all happened. And with no warning, all my stuff was taken, my phone was taken, hands against the wall. I started getting pat down. They said, take off your shoes. And they started ripping my shoelaces out of my shoes, which at the time I had no idea what that meant. And then later on found out that's so you don't hang yourself in prison, was taken. And I was placed into a cell with 5 other girls where we slept on the ground on this tiny mat and had aluminum foil wrapped around our bodies like dead bodies. And I was in there for 48 hours before anyone talked to me or I was allowed to make a phone call. I didn't get that phone call until day 3.
And then did you stay in that jail the whole time, or where were you transferred?
So I was still in that jail, and then after that call, I was given a stack of paperwork that told me that I was banned from America for 5 years unless I appeal and go through the consulate, sign here, sign here, sign here. And then the woman told me it doesn't matter if you sign or not, though. Like, this is happening regardless. And I said, how long am I going to be here? Can I please? I'll book my flight home. And she goes, I don't know how long you're going to be here. I'm just doing my job. And then that is when they transferred me to Otay Mesa, the first jail that I was in.
Sorry, how many jails were you in?
I was in 2. I was in 2 jails. I was transferred 3 times. When they transfer you, they put you in chains. I had chains wrapped around my waist, handcuffs on my hands that were attached to my waist, handcuffs on my feet. They transfer you. That's when I got transferred to Otay Mesa. And then a few days later, they transferred me to Arizona.
What was the treatment like? What were the people that were in there with you like?
The first jail I was in, there were about, I'd say, 140 girls, women, and every single one of them, not one of us had a criminal record. So when you're placed in jail, the color of your prison outfit reflects your criminal status. So I was placed in the unit with 0 criminal records. Everyone's story was different of why they were in there, but a lot of similarities between the women. And I got out within 2 weeks. The majority of the women are in there for months. And I'm telling you, that place, these detention centers, everything in there is made to make you break into a million pieces. I have never seen this before. I had no idea that this existed for the non-criminals. Like, they would just do the weirdest things. Like, we'd get placed into these cells that were freezing cold. I'm talking like we'd be on the ground, like huddling, shivering. I'm like, we're gonna get hypothermia in here. No blankets, nothing. They would wake you up in the middle of the night. The food was not food. I wouldn't even feed it to a dog. The water was from tap water from our toilets. They'd give you one styrofoam cup and one plastic spoon to reuse after every meal. Like, the second jail I was in, we didn't get to stretch our legs and be, and it's not even fresh air. Like, it's like this another cell with a tiny sliver of fresh air. And we didn't get to go out there until day 4. And the thing with this place is, if you go to jail, you're sentenced and you know when you're getting out. In here, you have no idea. And these women haven't seen their husbands. They haven't seen their children. They're losing their jobs. It's just...
Wow. Can you imagine? Like, you have no idea. No idea when you're getting out. None. And what she's describing is like just regular jail. And they're abducting American citizens in this. So if you have no sympathy for her because she's Canadian and she tried to get in whatever way or whatever justification you want to put on it, okay. But what about the American citizens that go through this? What about the American war veterans that go through this?
I honestly could not believe that this is happening.
What were the range of reasons why some of the women that were in that facility with you said that they were there?
So there were a lot of freak accidents like me. I met this one woman who, her and her husband have working visas in America. They're both pastors, and they were on a road trip in San Diego, and they accidentally went into the wrong lane and were about to cross the Mexican.
Pastors. Fuck. Worst of the worst. He's picking up the worst of the worst.
Border, and they stopped their car and they said, no, we can't cross the border. We don't have our passports. And the guard was like, okay, yeah, just go on ahead and turn around. And then they got put into the system. I met people similar to me who got taken from the immigration office when they were reapplying. And then you have all of the women from countries all over the world.
So she's talking about the people that they're taking in immigration court now.
World who have come to America to seek asylum. So all different backgrounds, but we were all placed in this cell together.
So how did you finally get out? What was the thing that actually worked in getting, was it their attention or what happened?
Nothing is for certain, but what I can tell you is when I was placed into the second jail, I started freaking out because of the conditions. And one of the girls gave me her phone call because for some reason she could set up her phone account, but because my number was a Canadian number, I couldn't. And she gave me her call. I called my friend that got me to the media that she had found who had just done case reports on 2 other people who had been in the detention centers. And he blasted my story. And I called my lawyer the next day. So what it was, who knows, but the timing suggests that it was because of the news.
So imagine this is a little white girl, right? Born in Canada. I think she used to be a movie star or something. Has money. And she was having this kind of trouble. If I was to go down there and something happened, I'm fucked. Nobody cares. Gone. I'd probably still be there.
You feel privileged?
I am 100% privileged. That was something that really, really came to me when I was in there. And that is why I've been so vocal about this story. because this isn't my story. This is thousands and thousands of women that are placed in these systems that do not have my privilege. And I tell everyone, I had resources. I had a Canadian passport. I had lawyers. I had politicians. I had media. And it still took me almost 2 weeks to get out of there. Can you even imagine what these other women are going through?
So we reached out to the CBP.
Exactly.
While the CBP has not responded, ICE said, in part, Jasmine Mooney was detained March 3rd by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for not having legal documentation to be in the United States. Mooney was processed in accordance with the Securing Our Borders executive order dated January 21st. All aliens in violation of U.S. immigration law may be subject to arrest, detention, and if found removable by final order, removed from the U.S. regardless of nationality. What's your reaction to their statement?
Well, one thing I do know is, for instance, when I was placed into prison, I told every single guard, I will pay for my flight. Please, someone, can I talk to my ICE officer? I even wrote in the tablet, I will pay for my flight. And when my story broke to the media, ICE contacted my lawyer for the first time as soon as it released. And they told them, oh, yeah, Jasmine's here. We weren't aware that she would pay for her flight home. No problem. We'll get her out tomorrow. So I don't know what their statement means because I was in the immigration office applying legally. I've had so many lawyers.
Surprise, surprise, they lied. Like, what do you expect, man? To these people, Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Like, you're going to use regular facts against this regime, man?
From across the country look at my paperwork. They don't understand it. It doesn't make sense.
You've said that some of these women gave you letters for you to mail when you got outside. Is it right?
Yeah, so what happened when we were placed in the second jail, they were like, oh, we don't know how long we're going to be in here. Jasmine, you are for sure getting out before any of us. Can you please contact our families? Because I was like, I'm going to be so vocal about this. And they were just like, use our stories as proof, you know, because listen, I'm sitting here telling you what we went through. I don't have proof. I don't have videos. I don't have photos of the conditions. It's my word, right? And so, and then a lot of people are extremely scared to talk about this. And when I got out of prison, I've had so many people DM me who were placed in the system. And I was like, would you be willing to come forward and talking? And they're like, no, like they suffer from so much PTSD, from trauma. They're scared. You know, this is scary. People think, I don't want to talk about this because what if I get banned for life or I get in trouble or they come after me? And so it's very difficult.
There's people out there that are getting PTSD from this and then keeping it to themselves. Damn. Gonna go for a quick smoke break, guys. I'll be right back.
For a lot of people to talk about this.
Right now, for you, you are officially banned from the United States for the next 5 years. What are you going to do about it?
There's a couple different things that could happen. Either my ban gets rescinded, which I'm hoping that might happen, or I am going to be appealing it. But unfortunately, those things just take time. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the next few years with everything, right?
You're not advocating for open borders, per se. Your critique is of the process in how people are being treated. Is that accurate?
100%. So I want to be very clear. I do not support being in any country illegally. You have to have the proper documentation. What I'm being an advocate for is if you are going to be deported from America or wherever, you should not, there's no reason anyone should be placed into these systems and stuck in there for weeks to months. I'm talking months, okay? And then on top of that, the conditions on which you are treated in these facilities. And then when I got out, I did a lot of research. And what I found is this is a business. And things really started to make sense. I'm like, oh, so of course, I'm a businesswoman. They're cutting costs everywhere that they can when you are in these facilities. They have no incentive to get people out because the more people that are placed into these systems and the longer they stay and the more transfers they do, the more money they make. On top of it, these are taxpayer dollars. So the American people are paying for this to happen because these corporations are getting grants from the US government. So when you really put all the pieces together, it starts to make sense. And that is what I'm advocating for. Why was I, a Canadian, who my friends ended up paying for my flight home, and I spent 12 days in jail being treated like this scum of the earth, like a criminal. And they keep saying, like, to this day, I still do not have a criminal record, but I had an inmate ID, mugshots, fingerprinted, in a jail uniform, in chains for 12 days. So that should not be happening.
Jasmine Mooney, thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful.
I wanted to talk about the Nelk Boys. Have you all heard about the controversy where they platformed Benjamin Netanyahu and got extreme pushback from their audience. This was such an embarrassing thing. I did a video on it, but they were basically doing these softball interviews. They asked him what his McDonald's order was, and that was honestly like the hardest pushback because he said he prefers Burger King. It was honestly one of the grossest things ever. They got cooked by their audience. So after the backlash, when they realized how bad it was, they said they're going to bring on a Palestinian or a pro-Palestinian guest, and they chose to bring on Bassem Youssef. And my God, Bassem Youssef did not hold back. The things that he said, I haven't watched the whole thing, I just saw a couple of clips online. So not only did he say, listen, you can't infantilize yourselves. You're 30-year-olds, so you can't make it seem as if you're...
Can we share clips here, or are they weird with like copyright stuff?
We can share their clips, yeah, because I was able to play their clips.
We should share that clip. So, yeah, I saw that one clip.
Yeah,
let's watch it. I don't even know what you guys are
What?
talking about. I mean, I do know about the
You have it there?
Boys interview with...
I have it all ready to go.
I know about the interview with Netanyahu. I know that they were steamrolled by their audience for it, thankfully.
Right. And he even called them out for calling Zoran Mamdani anti-Semitic, because one of the guys had said, yeah, that guy, Zoran Mamdani, he asked Netanyahu about Mamdani, and he said that anti-Semite. And Bassem said something to the effect of, where'd you get this information? And he said, oh, I saw it on X. So like
They
these
just
guys
parrot
are
shit. They're so
idiots.
fucking stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I hadn't even heard these guys, and I guess that's my
Same.
blind spot until the Netanyahu interview. And they're massive.
I had come across them in 2021 when I was reporting on the mass amount of influencers scamming their fans with meme coins, like their own meme coins. And the Nelk Boys had at the time been one of the rare big influencers to criticize the practice of influencers doing that. And then shortly after they did, they criticized, and like a couple months after I wrote I put out my reporting, they launched their own meme coin.
Seriously? Well, that's not the worst thing about them, believe it or not. So I did not know a lot about them after their interview with Netanyahu. I looked into them, and apparently there's more than just the two Nelk Boys. It's like a rotating cast. And there's another Nelk Boy called Steve Will Do It, and he actually did a podcast with some other guy. I'm not sure if he's part of the Nelk Boys cinematic universe, but Steve Will Do It admitted that he is into bestiality. Not into bestiality. I should be more charitable. He admitted that he jerks off his dog.
Oh my God!
He literally admitted this. I don't know if we need to watch the clip.
So did they kick him off, or is he still part of the rotating cast?
Wait. When you say we don't know, when you say we don't know if we need to watch the clip, I hope you're not talking about a clip of.
No. And it's crazy.
Then I would say yes, we definitely don't need to watch that one. We don't need to watch that clip.
No, of course not. Back when I used to watch the H3 podcast, embarrassingly, I was a fan of them. But they actually played that clip of Steve Will Do It talking about this, and they were making fun of him for it. And it clicked with me after this podcast. I'm like, wait, isn't that part of the Nelk Boys? And that's how I originally heard of them, but I had kind of like destroyed that information in my brain because I didn't want to know about this guy who jerked off his dog. Deeply fucking disturbed person. He was, the way that he described it was him being like sympathetic to his dog because his dog can't reach his junk. And so he was empathetic because it's like, well, I would want to do it if I were a dog, but I couldn't, so I'm doing that for my dog. Like, I'm not joking. Like, these are the types of people that we're dealing with here. They're truly mentally ill and so idiotic that he did not think sharing that would be a bad thing to share. Like, I mean, like the fact that he did that, insane. But he shared it and was like, yeah, no big deal. So that's just to give you like a little bit of insight into these people. We're not dealing with normal human beings. We are dealing with subhuman degenerates who suck off war criminals. We should call them the Milk Boys because they milk Netanyahu's dick. But thankfully, they got cooked by Bassem. I'm not sure what this clip is. This was shared by somebody who just said that they got cooked. It's like general stuff, but I have specific clips if they don't address like the Zoran portion here. But I'll just go ahead and press play.
We should have grilled him 50,000, 100,000 times harder, but something we can't get back, and we'll probably all
Of course, but I know you can't get back this like trip in Israel, but I'm just telling you, this was like part of a much bigger propaganda effort, right? And a country that spends $150 million on its image, they are covering something. When they spread all of these propaganda, it's like, we're not starving people in Gaza. You understand that this conversation has been happening for 2 years. First of all, I'm not absolving you from your trip. You guys are not little kids. You are fucking 30 years old, right? People in your age have families and they have a career, and you need to stop. I'm just saying this because you're my little brothers, but you're not little, right? You need to stop infantilizing yourself. It's like, we're just stupid people doing stupid stuff. You're 30 years old and you need to be aware of what's happening in the world and that your reach and your platforms means something and it affects people. And I think the biggest reason why people were so upset for you, not because you brought someone and you didn't contest him, that it is the talking point that he used is the same talking points that have been used for 2 years to kill thousands of people, right? So, I mean, and part of the reason why people were so angry is that, forget even if you don't know anything about the conflict, there was like a total lack of critical thinking.
Yeah, there's more to this, but
how like what did they think the response to this was going to be? I don't understand why. Like, what did they think?
Right.
I'm trying to understand what.
I don't think they thought that's the problem.
What did they think? Did they think like they got because like their love of Trump would be the equivalent or something? Like they got, I'm sure their audience.
Part of it was clout. They admitted it was
clout
inadvertently. They were like, wow, we used to do pranks, and now we've got this international leader on. And in a different clip, he says, we knew that he was controversial, but we were ignorant to what was going on in Gaza. And so it gets worse because one of them admitted that the questions were scripted. Like, they gave them a sheet of questions that they could ask, and they're like, well, we deviated from. But I mean, they very clearly did not deviate because they didn't ask a single challenging question.
The Burger King question was something they were given.
Well, that might have been the only time when they deviated, right?
but maybe not. Maybe they were like given this, and they were like, oh yeah, this sounds totally good and above the board, and something we should ask.
Didn't the White House set it up? Isn't that what they said?
Wouldn't surprise me if that.
Yeah. The White House set it up. So like
Yeah.
they're like they probably thought, oh wow, this is like so cool. The White House setting up this interview with this world leader. This is a big deal. They were just purely thinking about clout and like how cool it was to have a world leader. They didn't like these people are fucking stupid. Like
Right.
that isn't to absolve them of what they did. It's just to like these aren't like evil people being like we're gonna recycle Netanyahu's image, but that's what they did by being that.
Yeah, exactly. They're just dumb. They're just dumb.
Goddamn stupid.
Right. No, but also like I'm so happy that Bassem Youssef called them out for like their response. Like all these fucking guys, they do this shit. They fucking get the audience, they get the platform that they have, and then they fucking do shit like this that goes well beyond what they're able to do, but they just do it because it'll get them attention, and then they fucking shrink into this little fucking shy little boy type character. Like, oh, we're just stupid. Like, what are we supposed to know?
I'm just a small bean, ooh. I didn't know any better. It's insufferable.
Also, but like this even extends to like them being 30-year-olds with a fucking prank platform. You're fucking 30 years old.
Well, they were
fucking
pranksters.
Pranks.
They've
Like,
grown up since then.
Oh, please, yeah, grown up.
Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, I hate this shit, man. I seriously think these people are scum of the earth. I think people like this, all these fucking influencers who fucking got careers doing shit like this, are scum of the earth, the lowest of the low.
And what's funny is that this actually backfired in a way for Netanyahu as well.
Damn.
Because he doesn't have the riz, he's deeply unlikable, and they got so much heat that in a stream that they did on Kick after the interview went live, they said, oh yeah, it made sense because one of the commenters said, and I'm paraphrasing, one of the commenters said that it's as if you interviewed the modern day Hitler, and that made so much sense. I didn't think of it that way. So I mean, like, it's not the best thing you want to hear if you're Benjamin Netanyahu. It didn't go over swimmingly because the obvious attempt here was to win over younger people, younger men in particular, on the podcast circuit. So it did not work. But still, the fact that they tried to launder the reputation of a genocide heir, this is something that they should never live down. Like, they need to carry this shame for the rest of their lives. They have to be remembered for this because you cannot allow this kind of shit to happen. Like, if you are going to platform somebody who has murdered hundreds of thousands of people, you never get to live that down. I'm sorry.
Also, like I don't believe they really fucking like care, honestly. Like the idea
I don't
that
think
they
they
have,
do either.
Like they have Bassem Youssef on. You know what this does for them? Like it's great that he does it because I think it's important that he speaks to that audience. You have to take it where you can get it, and certainly these guys have a large audience. But the thinking from these people, we know what they think. They just view this as even more content.
Yeah.
Oh, this will get us in. I mean, you see how this has benefited all these guys. These guys don't care. They have no introspection. They have no morals. And this goes for people like Logan Paul. All these guys. Everything to them is just another chance to make money, generate more views, get a larger audience. They don't give a shit. They have no shame. There's nothing like anything I just meant. There's none of it. There's none.
This guy's 100% right, and like this shit works. It's why right-wing podcasters make a lot more money than left-wingers. It's because you try and be principled and like think about but the other side doesn't care. The other side doesn't care, and they'll say anything. They'll platform anybody. Like they'll have the Nazi guy on next.
None of it. They are. If I was a religious person,
and they're getting the benefit of it because now they get Bassem Youssef on.
I would say these people are soulless because they truly have nothing in them. That there's nothing.
Yeah, it's just opportunism and clout and yeah. Okay, this is the next clip here.
Like if I start,
you know what it is? I think some of the shit's so dark.
Yes.
That you almost don't want to believe it.
Exactly.
I think that's part of the problem.
It's
like when you say something like that, my initial reaction is like,
this is a
I
conspiracy.
don't want to believe it. Not conspiracy. I don't want to believe it because it's scary how fucked up that would be if it was true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's why I didn't want this interview to saying like, hey guys, you fucked up, you're terrible people, look what you did. But I didn't want to just chase every single lie that Netanyahu says because it's exhausting. I just wanted you to understand the level of psychopathy that this regime is. And
there's another clip here that
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Bassem just nailed it, because Netanyahu and them are trying to use their platform to like justify themselves or humanize themselves. And yeah, they don't care what happens to you, your reputation or whatever.
I mean, I think Bassem Youssef is being very generous to them. He's obviously on their show, so I get it. But I would say that psychopathy extends to these guys as well. I mean, the idea, like his answer, I don't want to believe. You don't want to believe it. It literally,
bullshit.
This is like something I can imagine a small child sitting next to Miss Rachel saying this to her and her explaining what's going on in Gaza because she's fucking wonderful. Yeah.
It's cope and damage control, so that way they don't look like they're monsters. It's like, no, because that same guy who said that admitted that he was ignorant to what was going on, but now he's saying later on, it's so bad, I just couldn't believe it. I had cognitive dissonance. When no, you knew well aware what you were doing, and you chose to do it anyway because you wanted the clout.
I believe there are people who are ignorant to what's going on.
Yeah, I think these kids should just own it too. Just own it. And not owning it is... I don't watch the show that did this, but I think it's going to cost them because it's going to be unauthentic. If they're more like, you know, Tim Dillon or what's the mustache guy's name? Anyways, he's got that podcast where he's like, well, yeah, I voted for Trump, but well, whatever. What was my, I don't have any culpability. Like, you know what I mean? I think, I don't know. I almost think they should own it.
And those are people who pay, they're not in politics at all. They pay no attention. They don't have, they're just, I get it. There definitely are. I would say if you have a fucking podcast or a show or a platform or whatever, and you endorse Donald Trump, did videos with Donald Trump, and then you're being given Netanyahu, and you fucking know who Netanyahu is, even just on a base level, like basic knowledge, you know enough. Give me a break. Please. To not know, to not be educated on the very basics of Israel is perpetrating, at least if you don't know what genocide is happening, Israel is perpetrating a horrific act on innocent men, women, and children in Gaza. It is absolutely impossible to not know this basic level stuff if you ever spend even a few minutes online, and it's especially impossible to say you don't know if you do any sort of current events related online show. Give me a break.
And if they really don't know, then don't have the people on. Like, I don't, dive into topics I don't know anything about. Like, and I'm someone who reads this shit every day. If I don't feel comfortable discussing a certain topic, I'm not going to get into it until I know enough. Like, for these people to really not know anything, or at least, have just a basic understanding, they at least have the awareness to understand you cannot tackle this in a way that is going to be worth, I guess it's worth their time because they got the attention, but worth the time of, society to hear what you're saying.
But good things from at least a significant portion of their audience, then this oh, I don't know what we did would not be happening. Give me a break. They'd be dunking on the pro-Palestinian activists just like any other run-of-the-mill conservative if their audience wasn't against this.
Mm-hmm. This is a clip. I have two more clips to show you. This is a follow-up to what they were just talking about laundering the reputation of Netanyahu.
That video, guys, that you did, it has 7.5 million views on YouTube. Even if October 7th didn't happen, you unknowingly were used as a part to launder their propaganda and give people and just like go into their heads and just like plant these horrible images about Palestinians. So people's like, oh, there's like a bunch of people staying in tents. It's okay to kill them. So you understand?
No, I'm just trying to digest it.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. So
that dude in particular, I said this when I did.
Damn. Yeah, and Bassem Youssef telling you like that, like, ugh. It's uncomfortable. The kid is just like holding on, like it's like, like the hold on to the holy shit bar in a car, like damn.
In my video, I don't know his name, but you could tell there's just nothing going on up there.
Oh
like,
yeah,
dumb as a fucking box of rocks. My God.
There are certain people who you could just look at.
Next.
Doug Ford actually did a correct thing. Believe it or not, Doug Ford did something right. He has formally canceled the $100 million deal with Starlink. Now, he had announced his intent to do this.
Boom!
He had announced his intent to do this, but it had not officially happened yet. So because they had to negotiate a break fee. They had to negotiate a fee to end the contract that they had signed. So when Al's 3090 says no tax dollars for Elon Musk, not quite the case. There will be some sum of money paid to Elon Musk's Starlink organization, SpaceX. In order to break this deal. The government will not say how much the fee was. They're not going to tell you, which indicates it's likely high.
And who cares? I think they should tell us. If it was 50 million, it was worth it. If it was 70 million, it was worth it. Just, the guy's like, Sig Heiling, poor people killing, fucking racist. Any amount of money that you don't give him, and didn't he just try and loot Canada for a bunch of EV credits? Fuck this guy. They should say, whatever, we paid this fucker 80 million, just tell him to go fuck off. That's it. Fuck off. Shit would be strong. I'd do it.
To me, it suggests that it is likely a fair bit of money. They said that the cost of cancellation was, quote, not zero. Although they do say it's substantially less than the original valuation of the deal. And I think this is reasonable. Like, you've seen many, many claims of them shutting it down for a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, it was not a great deal at first. $100 million for 15,000 homes.
The deal was so bad. I talk about it all the time. It was $100 million for 15,000 homes. That's 6,600 per home. So corrupt from start. Oh damn! Didn't know about that.
Is not a great deal. And they're like, do I have a guess how much it could be? Honestly, no. Honestly, I have no idea. There's no way to know. Is it reasonable to expect?
Gotta head out. Oh great. It was reported as 100 million.
You know, something like 10 to 20%, probably, but anything
20% restocking.
Thing is going to be speculation because the government's giving no indication. But like, yeah, it's likely going to be a substantial percentage of the original deal, because why would Starlink let us off the hook, or let Ontario off the hook, without getting some cash out of it? Yeah, it's very interesting. So Doug Ford said that they're ripping it up. Quote, it's done. In March, he said, it's done. We're not going back there. It's done. Elon Musk's response was, oh, well. What's very interesting is, yeah, they originally were going to roll out a law called the Starlink Cancellation Act to end the contract, which would have allowed Ontario to protect itself from a lawsuit, which is very interesting. Yeah, the payout is likely to be less than it would have cost to settle in court.
Donald Trump vowed to end the war in Ukraine in just 24 hours when he returned to the White House. 7 months on, with no end in sight, Trump's patience with President Vladimir Putin seems exhausted. Trump describing Russia's actions this week as disgusting and threatening more sanctions. It was a former Russian President, Dmitry Medvedev, who responded. Now serving as deputy chairman of the country's Security Council, he posted, each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. President Trump described those comments as foolish and highly provocative before ordering 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to reposition.
So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
The president did not say where specifically the 2 submarines were being deployed, in keeping with U.S. military protocol, but did clarify they were closer to Russia.
The risk is that the nuclear side may now take on a life of its own if Russia decides to make a similar move and communicate it to say, well, if you're moving your submarines, we are moving ours.
This guy has the nuclear football. Has the fuck, whatever. Americans are dumb.
Not going to convince Russia to sign or negotiate a peace agreement.
The Kremlin is yet to officially comment, but Moscow's stock market has fallen sharply.
I think it has no chance at all of forcing Putin to the negotiating table over Ukraine. They're puzzled by Trump, but really don't think it's that serious. He may not have even done it. This is the other thing. I think they're thinking, well, he's said he's moved a couple of submarines, but how do we know?
Today, Ukraine managed successful drone strikes on an oil facility and military supplier deep inside of Russia. Nevertheless, Putin shows no sign of rushing to the negotiating table before his 8th of August ceasefire deadline. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
Oh, is that what it is now? 8th of August?
You're gambling with World War III.
Это нарушает нашу безопасность, расширение НАТО.
As a military strategic planner and former planner, you don't want politicians telegraphing what your next moves are going to be.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too.
A peacekeeping force does not exist with a ceasefire.
Now, President Trump has announced that the United States will impose a 25% tariff on goods imported from India starting on August the 1st. He also said the world's 5th largest economy will face an unspecified penalty for continuing to trade with Russia on military capability. It comes as Mr. Trump's shortened deadline for Russia to come to the table on a ceasefire in Ukraine inches closer. With me to discuss, as ever, is our resident analyst, Mikey Kay, former assault helicopter pilot and senior officer in the British military. Good to see you again, Mikey.
You too.
So, lots of talk now on secondary sanctions. We hear Donald Trump talking about this week. How does that affect President Putin's ability to target Ukraine if these secondary sanctions do indeed come in?
Yeah, lots to get through tonight. So let's start by taking a look at Trump's announcement on bringing the deadline on secondary sanctions and tariffs forward against Russia. Here he is speaking in the UK earlier this week. Let's take a look at what he said.
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Yeah, in terms of a response by Russia, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russia is, quote-unquote, immune from the impact based on previous sanctions. But interestingly, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, a close ally of Putin, responded on Twitter. Let's have a look on slide. Medvedev wrote, each new ultimatum, quote, is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with Trump's own country. So, Keita, from a military perspective, Trump's Truth Social post today is a good example of how the US is trying to use secondary sanctions as a threat. Let's go slide and have a look at what he said. I won't read it ad verbatim, but basically Trump is going after India on its purchase of energy from Russia. That's around just over 2 million barrels a day. for which Russia is using that funding towards its war in Ukraine. 25% tariff indicated by Russia on that post. And then he also mentions India's purchase of military equipment from Russia. And there's a penalty that he says, but there's no idea of what that penalty actually is. The Indian government have responded today saying that the two countries have been engaged in negotiations on concluding a fair, balanced, and mutually beneficial bilateral trade.
First of all, India is part of BRICS. To think that India and Russia aren't going to do deals is kind of crazy.
Agreement over the last few months. We remain committed to that objective. So while Trump has said what his potential intent is, there's this sort of indication that there's still some wiggle room from India to actually sort something out. Now,
and I think him pushing India away, like, I don't know if I have that lady on. No, they have that. The Indians don't seem impressed. Okay, I watched some shit. The Indians don't seem impressed about it. And I think this is pushing them away, which isn't that just pushing them closer to Russia? I don't know.
Now, what's interesting is the Truth Social post by Trump goes after India and its Russian military capability equipment purchases. But the counter to that is that India could then pivot away from the US on the purchasing of military capability. So, for example, India's fast jet fleet comprises of around 70% Russian-made jets. I'll give you an indication of what they got. Let's go slide, please. So this is the Indian Air Force Russian-made Sukhoi 30. It entered service with India in 2002. It's its latest purchase, but it's still quite old, 23 years. Then, if we go slide, this is the Indian Air Force Russian-made MiG-29. Now, this has been upgraded with a life extension that could see it in service with the Indian Air Force into the 2030s.
And important to point out, just historically, India has had a very long-running and established relationship with Russia, partly as a juxtaposition to being under too much US pressure. The US had historically supported India's arch nemesis in a way, Pakistan, who it sees as a security threat. But also just to bring in the whole question of oil imports from Russia, because the Indian High Commissioner to the UK speaking last.
I'm speaking to you this morning from the wrong side of yet another perilous line our country has crossed under Donald Trump. Today, we're all waking up in a country headed by a president who, when faced with empirical data that he doesn't like, will fire the government official who collected it. Yesterday, we all got some bad news, an alarmingly bad monthly employment report that revealed a far more fragile jobs market than we thought we had. Only 73,000 net new jobs, that's new jobs created minus jobs lost, were added in July. That's a weak number. But worse were the revisions to the two previous jobs reports. May's job report was revised from 144,000 net new jobs to only 19,000. June's 147,000 net new jobs were mostly a mirage as well. Turned out to be only 14,000.
Damn. If it goes down 125,000 again, what did he say? 75,000? It would be minus 50,000. That's probably, I don't know. Maybe you're in the States. Maybe you know. Is that true?
1,000 jobs that were added that month. That's 258,000 fewer jobs than previously thought, which means the average for the last 3 months is 35,000, far fewer than the 150,000 or more that are needed for job growth to keep up with population growth in this country. Now, revisions to government statistics are normal in subsequent months. It's the nature of large numbers. They happen regularly, but they almost never show this dramatic a shift. It was a bad report, there's no doubt about it, and bad particularly for a president who in political terms owns this job market and this economy, which has been roiled by the chaos of his tariffs and his trade wars. But instead of addressing the numbers and the challenge they present, the president said they were fake, and he fired the head of the department that collects them. Trump basically claimed the jobs numbers were rigged. He accused the fired commissioner
Holy fuck.
of inflating numbers for the Biden administration and sabotaging jobs for them under this administration.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics? Because I think our numbers were wrong. I've had issues with the numbers for a long time, but we're doing so well. I believe the numbers were phony, just like they were before the election. We need people that we can trust.
When he says we need people we can trust, what he's talking about is like not like Mike Pence that wouldn't break the law for him on January 6th. Not like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what he talks about. It's retarded.
We need people that we can trust.
Yeah,
the part he didn't say was like at the FBI or the Justice Department or on the judicial bench. We need people we can trust to do what I want or need them to do or say. Trump says jobs reports were overstated during the previous presidency to prop up Joe Biden and are now being underestimated to hurt Trump. The president has zoned in on the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics being a, quote, Biden appointee, ignoring the fact that she was confirmed by the United States Senate by a vote of 86-8, 6 senators not voted. Among the 86 who voted in favor, J.D. Vance. But this is becoming a common refrain for Donald Trump. He also accuses the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, of being a Biden appointee. Jerome Powell's a Republican. Trump is the one who elevated him to the position of Fed chair himself. Yesterday also marked the president's self-imposed but often delayed deadline.
Man, I'm laughing, but this guy has the nuclear codes, man. Someone stop him.
For reaching trade deals with countries across the world before imposing sweeping tariffs on most international goods. Back in April, Trump claimed that he had already struck 200 trade deals, despite, one, not having really done so, and two, there not being 200 countries on the planet. The number of deals before...
Come on! Come on! Oh, and then they say, oh, like, you know, late night. Late night, you know, has like a left-wing bias and they shouldn't do that. And like, but come on, this is straight comedy. He put tariffs on penguins. He's talking about more than 200 countries. There's not 200 countries in the world. You want to talk about cognitive decline?
Before the August 1st deadline was closer to 8. Although arguably you could consider the European Union, which is a single trading bloc, as 27 countries. Deals were struck with the European Union, with Indonesia, Japan, Pakistan, the Philippines, South Korea, the UK, and Vietnam. Talks are ongoing with Mexico and China. Still, this is nowhere close to 200. That was just a lie. An executive order signed by Trump late on Thursday outlined tariff rates for 69 countries, including several changes from the rates that were announced back in April on Liberation Day. Smaller countries like Lesotho and Guyana were originally hit with massive tariffs because they're poor countries that sell more to America than they buy, and as a result, have large trade deficits with America. Those tariff rates have been cut. The day before, Wednesday, Trump also jacked up tariffs on Brazil to 50% for what he's calling the political persecution of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who's on trial for attempting a coup in 2022. Trump calls that trial a witch hunt. And forget a deal with one of America's oldest and biggest trading partners, Canada. The White House is upping the ante on our neighbor to the north, announcing a 35% tariff on Canadian goods, up from 25%. Now, this is on the goods that are not included in the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement, the thing that used to be NAFTA that Trump himself renegotiated. Plus, on Wednesday, the Commerce Department said that gross domestic product, GDP, which is the largest measure of economic activity we have, increased at a 3% annual rate in the second quarter, the second 3 months of this year. Now, lots and lots of journalists jumped on that exciting top-line number, one that seems far more impressive than the first quarter's GDP increase, which was just 0.5%. But if some of those journalists had taken about 45 seconds to look under that shiny hood, they'd have found a far less impressive rebound than it initially seemed. Here's why. That upward swing in GDP growth came from a massive and fully expected decline in imports, after a massive and fully expected increase in imports in the first quarter in anticipation of tariffs. So lots of money left our economy to bring goods in before the first tariff deadlines in April. And when imports sharply dropped, the smaller resulting trade deficit boosted the GDP growth figure. That's not so much evidence of economic prosperity as it is the result of a math equation and how GDP is calculated. Again, something that economics journalists should know. Regardless, all of this uncertainty around our tariffs is leading to some of our greatest allies and trading partners working around us, sometimes literally. In fact, a few days ago, it was reported that Canada and Mexico are working on a, quote, Northern Corridor Agreement.
I thought that was fake news. Good job. Glad to hear it.
$120 billion investment to create easier trade between Mexico and Canada without involving the United States. I want to talk more about this whole idea and where we're going. I'm joined by David L. Cohen.
It's a $120 billion investment. Canada and Mexico pact to dodge U.S. trade and cost Americans $125 billion. Mexico, Canada trade news. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything on this. Sometimes I see shit on Twitter and I'm like, is this real? Like, I don't know. I mean, this guy's reporting it, so like I believe it, but I can't find it in the news. I don't know.
It was literally. In fact, a few days ago, it was reported that Canada and Mexico are working on a, quote, Northern Corridor Agreement, a $120 billion investment to create easier trade between Mexico and Canada without involving the United States. I want to talk more about this whole idea and where we're going. I'm joined by David L. Cohen. He's the former United States ambassador to Canada. Ambassador Cohen, good to see you. Thank you for being on the show with me.
Ali, it's good to see you, and I'm hoping that my Philadelphia skyline background is making you jealous.
It is, and it looks fantastic, and I will see you there soon. I also had as good a chance of seeing you in Canada. Until recently, you were the ambassador to Canada, and I just want to start with this point, and I think most Americans know this, and all Canadians know.
The new ambassador's a dick. We don't like him. Calls us nasty. Fuck you.
This. There are few relationships in the world like the relationship between Canada and the U.S.
Were.
Sure, it's underpinned by trade, but it's actually, it's a lot more, it's a lot deeper.
Yeah, so it used to be, and I think this is probably for every country in the world, okay? Used to be that, like, you know, in Canada, if you're watching the Olympics, there's no Canadian team, you probably cheer for the American team, okay? That's what you would do. Now, it would be like, American team would be like way the fuck down here, like maybe above Russia. Iran, like a couple, I don't know, does North Korea have a team? I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? There'd be a few, like the Americans would obviously be higher on the totem pole than that, but you wouldn't be cheering for them, right? And that's why I think like this whole, the borders at zero, like it's because people in those South American countries are like, we got dictators here, yo. Why don't I want to come like and go in alligator Alcatraz when I can just go in regular prison here? It's fucking retarded. Like the
it's a much deeper and
the damage done to the American brand, I think is going to be studied. Like, and I don't think it recovers. Like I don't know. I just don't think it recovers. I don't think that there's a point where there's going to be people that are pissed off. Like some pissed off beyond belief, like to the point where they're probably not gonna trust the states anymore. Okay, so like if we're talking like a Ukrainian, okay, maybe the mother of somebody who died because of the U.S. cutting off military aid. Like that person till they die, okay, or the kid of a person who died, whatever, family member of a person who died, okay, because of the U.S. cutting off aid to Ukraine and playing all their fucking games. Probably never ever, probably boycotting the states forever. Probably, I don't know what the fuck you could do to fix the brand with them. I don't know what the fuck you could do. Like you stole their mineral rights. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck you could do. Then there's the Ukrainian that maybe, like, is just pissed off about having to give up half their country to the U.S., which seems like in a bad deal, like a muscle move. Maybe they give the next, if there is a next Democratic president, a chance, Maybe they breathe a sigh of relief, like a Biden comes in and... But we've already seen that. We're like, oh, fuck, America fucked up one time. They fucked up one time. It's okay. It's okay. We're cool. But no, they fucked up more than one time. And they went back to it. They're just like down. And there's still people defending it. Like, I don't know how you fix this. I don't know how, like, there's got to be a lot of people in the world that will, even in Canada, okay, here, there's people that, I have friends that still go to the States, okay? I have other friends that won't go to the States while Trump is in office. I don't know, like, what it would take to repair the relationship for me. I'm open to it, but not seeing it. It would probably take a couple consecutive presidencies. And I know for me, it would actually be them convicting like everybody, like not just Trump now, okay? Rubio's got to go. What's that other guy's name? Bassett, the bald, laughy guy, the stupid one. Anyways, you know who I'm talking about. Lutnick would have to go. Miller would have to go. Elon would have to probably, be arrested for the laws he broke when he was in Doge. Boebert, all of them would have to go. Like, there'd have to be like a serious, like, damn near Nuremberg trial thing for me to be like, oh, okay, they're taking it seriously. Anything short of that, for me, they're not taking it seriously. They're faking it. They're putting a Band-Aid on it, and it's under there. They're never to be trusted again.
More durable relationship. I describe it as a relationship that is based on common values, on 150 years of...
Yeah, no, we don't have no common values, bro. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You guys are disappearing people in the streets. Fuck off. We don't, like, what... You think we see that in the mirror?
Partnership and allyship, and it does include trade, but it crosses defense, intelligence, culture. I mean, on a foreign policy base.
Europe does trade with Russia, or did trade with Russia up until they fucking, up until they, did the war with Ukraine and stuff. Okay, so like you can do trade with, and I think that's the position we're in now. We're doing trade with a hostile country, sure. But like, don't confuse that for values. We don't have fucking masked men in the street fucking stealing people like you do.
The United States and Canada are aligned in the pursuit of democracy around the world. And President Biden, I think, sort of nailed this when he repeatedly made the point that the United States has no better friend, partner, or ally than Canada.
So here's why this is important, because somewhere around 95% of what Canada sells to America as part of this massive trade arrangement stays the way it is under the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement. Right. It's a small amount of stuff that'll get affected. It's hard to calculate. It's not worth outlining for our viewers today. But something else is happening here. This idea that Canada and Mexico are going to work out some other deal, the idea that Canadians feel let down and alienated, this is of great import to us as a nation.
I'm a big believer in the importance of relationships. When you look at foreign policy, when you look at America and America's role in the rest of the world globally, our relationships matter. And having and maintaining and preserving those close relationships is an important part of what makes the United States an important country in the world. And when you blow up a relationship as important to that process as the U.S.-Canada relationship, there are consequences. I will say, however, and
there is a new flashpoint this morning in Donald Trump's global trade war. That threatened 35% tariff is now in place on some Canadian goods. This is the latest attempt by Washington to tighten cross-border trade. And one Canadian industry that Washington has taken particular issue with is dairy. The dairy industry falls under CUSMA regulations, but U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly complained, saying it's an unfair deal for his country's producers. To tell us more, we are joined now by Brett Ruskin, who is in Nova Scotia at a dairy farm. Brett, tell us a little bit about where you are and what dairy farmers are saying about the trade tensions.
Yeah, Katie, welcome to Middle Musquodoboit, Nova Scotia. This dairy farm here is one of hundreds in the province, one of thousands in the country that, again, are CUSMA compliant, so they fall under that agreement, so they aren't facing this new 35% tariff that so many industries are waking up to today. However, they have been in the crosshairs of Donald Trump's comments and posts and tweets talking about how it's an unfair deal, according to him, in terms of the American producers moving their goods here to Canada. So overall, each year, around $800 million worth of dairy products come from the United States to Canada. Around $300 million worth of Canadian dairy products head south of the border. And America has kind of earmarked, they have the ability to take to produce and have up to 3.6% of the overall Canadian dairy market. Do they reach that threshold? No, and so there's no tariffs that typically get imposed upon American dairy products. Still, though, we have seen Trump talk about them quite a lot over the last number of weeks and months. So dairy farmers are watching closely to see what might happen, but they aren't too concerned in terms of these latest trade tensions. Here's what one dairy farmer that co-owns this farm has to say about the current trade talks.
I'm confident with dairy. Our federal government has told us that they really don't see this as part of our negotiation necessarily for our trade deal deadline for the Friday. It's probably more of, let's see what we need to discuss during the CUSMA review, which we were part of for the CUSMA agreements for 2026. And so we'll let the facts play out and see what comes forward there.
And so watching the facts closely as they relate to the dairy industry here. Again, the dairy industry is CUSMA compliant, so they're not facing that same 35% tariff that other industries are. But we do know that Donald Trump has mentioned the unfair treatment that CUSMA imposes on American producers, American processors for the dairy industry. So we'll have to see if the dairy industry becomes a topic of discussion for future trade talks. And so dairy farms here could be among those affected. Now, Katie, fewer cows than we had last hour. I think they moved on literally to greener pastures. But no, it is still one of the many dairy farms here. Nice to visit. Nice, calm atmosphere here. So
there is nothing like live television and unpredictable, lovely animals behind you. So they seem very much to be behaving themselves now. So that is a good thing. Brett, thank you very much.
Well, guys, that's going to be it. That's going to be the show. That was my first stream. Thank you to anyone that followed, anyone who commented. I'm sorry if I did something that was not good etiquette on Twitch. I'm learning. I don't have a schedule yet, but when I figure it out, I'll let you guys know. All right. Peace. How do I stop this?